All right, let's do it. Let's blow this popsicle stand. Let's blast off. We got a lot happening. Okay. Okay, we got a lot happening. We got a lot happening in the world. Thank you, Themasius, for the playlist. Long hair husky Azan was my fave arc. I disagree. Okay. I disagree with you on that front, but it is what it is. Are you planning on any Spooktober games this month? Yeah, my gaming editors have sent me a laundry list of games that we could be potentially playing. The plural onesie is Stolen Valor. You didn't even play League of Depression. Brandon crashed the White House briefing and said Israel best friend. Yeah, that's not surprising to me. Biden made a surprise appearance at the briefing. He took questions on Israel and in the end telling Netanyahu to remember what he did for Israel. It's in the playlist. My goat, dude. That's why I'm voting for him. Like, that's why I'm writing his name in, because he's Israel's best friend. He did NATO. He did AUKUS. Ain't nobody does it like him, dude. Ain't nobody does it like him, dude. Tyler Oliveira vid in a nutshell. Okay, I'm not even gonna look at that. He said he's back in the race at the end. Thank God. Thank God he's back. Okay. The Hill is reporting that Biden and Harris think Netanyahu was purposely tilting the election for Trump. They're only realizing this now. Man, that's crazy. Bro. If only they had a guy that they could listen to that is like more knowledgeable on this stuff from the outside looking in than themselves from the inside looking out, you know? That's right. It's shocking. Who could have foreseen this? I mean, who could have said that? Tank for Trump. Who could have seen this coming? From election, and the polls are still tight as hell. What does this mean? Yeah, surprise Pikachu face, man. That's crazy. Kamala meets Muslim leaders in Michigan, plus will do a rally. Israel is still doing. Okay. October? Question mark? www.twitch.tv/Hasanabi. TikTok drama for fun. Oh, it's that lady. It's not even TikTok drama, bro. You're talking about the lady who like had a fucking cadaver in her backyard or some shit. Like this woman who thought that her house was haunted. Is that the TikTok drama? I saw that shit. That's crazy. I saw the summarization of the yo, that's not drama, bro. That's a crime. That's true crime. Israel's doing Israel shit. The IDF eliminated 250 Hezbollah fighters in 4 days. Oh yeah. It was not. It was a false alarm. Okay. Biden says Netanyahu trying to influence election. That's crazy, man. Who could have foreseen this, bro? Anyway, we're blasting off. More on the Hasanabi year of vindication continues. Okay. Obviously, no shit. Benjamin Netanyahu is trying to influence the fucking elections, and he is pro-Trump. I literally verbatim said this months ago. Yes, dude. And I'm not like a particularly brilliant person. Okay. I need you guys to understand. I'm not like a fucking incredibly talented, brilliant individual, okay? I'm kind of a dumbass. I'm a bit of a dumbass, but I think like people sometimes, I suspect, make things unnecessarily complicated in an effort to, I don't know, defend their idiotic positions, okay? And the reality of the matter is, it's super fucking apparent that Benjamin Netanyahu is pro-Trump and is in the tank for Trump and is trying to pull a fucking Ronald Reagan or a Richard Nixon for Donald Trump by just like purposely fucking escalating tensions and opening up new fronts, knowing full well that this absolute baboon in a suit is going to do anything and everything in his power to never actually reign in Israel. Okay. I mean, look at this shit. Look at this shit. Look at this shit. Look. They're so dumb. Bro, how about you fucking worry about the election that you have? Okay? They are so stupid. They are so dumb. They are so unimaginably idiotic, dude. They are so unimaginably idiotic. They're like, oh, Israel assassinated like a bunch of the leadership in the leadership structure of Hezbollah. So now they don't have anyone to put up in the fucking Lebanese parliament because we did an act of terrorism, like an open act of terrorism. This basically is a voluntary admission that you are, alongside Mossad working to assassinate the leadership structure of political parties globally in the same exact way that America used to do in Latin America. Okay? This right here is a fucking straight up regime change backed by terrorism. It's no different than any number of different places that America has done this in Latin America, okay? In Latin American countries, in African nations, globally, they are doing the same exact shit. It's just sloppier, and it's also more apparent, more in front of your fucking eyes. That's it. Yeah, but instead of learning about this in like declassified materials that you have to point to after like doing FOIA requests or whatever, you're figuring this out in real time now. That's the major difference here. And you can figure it out in real time, and you can develop a distaste towards it in real time. Not that the outcome will change, you know? But that's precisely what's happening. Yeah, dude, if you take out the leadership structure of like one of the most popular parties in the fucking Lebanese parliament, and while simultaneously the guys who took out the leadership structure are like actively invading the country, and then America tries to put together a fucking sham election where they, I don't know, prop up whatever kind of like Maronite Christian group that they want to make the leaders of Lebanon while Lebanon is actively being invaded. I'm sure that won't fucking yield really negative results down the line. It's very stupid. It's an incredibly stupid attitude. Okay? It didn't work in Gaza, and it's not going to work in Lebanon either. Oh my God. These people have brain worms, dude. They do not think. I think it literally comes from white supremacy. Like, this attitude stems from white supremacy. What do I mean by this? You're going to say, Hassan, what are you talking about? What do you mean white supremacy? Here's what I mean. You literally think Arabs are fucking like servile, docile dogs or something. You have to legitimately believe that you can do colonial domination to these groups of individuals in the big 2024 year of our holy fucking Lord, in the same way that you did way back in the fucking day in Africa and in Arab nations in general, especially maybe like 100 years ago. You genuinely think you can get away with doing this stuff without any sort of insurgency, without any sort of retaliation, without any sort of blowback. Technological achievements have equalized the playing field, okay? It's no longer a thing. It's no longer, dude, if one more person sends me the goddamn fucking chase, I'm going to lose my mind. I don't care, okay? I just started. I have a lot of news to cover. I don't care about the fucking chase, dude. Come on. Calm down, dude. Jesus Christ. Anyway, it's Christianity in general, in my opinion. I have Lebanese neighbors who are Christian and love terrorism against their own country. No, not every Lebanese Christian person is like, oh yeah, this is sick. Argentina's Javier Milei accused of plagiarizing UN speech from West Wing. I mean, that's great. That's fun stuff. All right, we'll get into it in a second. But once again, welcome to the I was right hour. Welcome to the Hasanabi was right once again. Hasanabi vindication hour. It's probably boring and annoying to have this happen so frequently. If you didn't want me to be frequently vindicated, then perhaps, I don't know, you could change trajectory on some of these like world-changing events, in which case I would never have to feel vindicated, because then, you know, the things that I think should happen would happen. Democrats suspect Netanyahu is attempting to tilt the Trump-Harris race. Democrats increasingly suspect Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is trying to interfere in U.S. domestic politics by ignoring President Biden's calls to negotiate a deal in Gaza by confronting Hezbollah and Iran weeks before the U.S. election. Who could have predicted this, I wonder? Who could have? Where's the Vorlo clip? Who could have said this ahead of time? Over and over again. It isn't just the Vorlo clip that like I've looked at before. There are many different instances where I directly said it over and over again. Leaving Benjamin Netanyahu, this unstable psychopath with so much power to do whatever the fuck he wants without restraining them at all, without packing this stuff up and implementing a ceasefire. Okay? I think you even mentioned it with Ro Khanna. Yes, I did. It's not even a prediction, it's an observation. Yes, I did. I mentioned it at the DNC. I mentioned it before the DNC. I've been saying it for months. I've been saying this for months. Foreign policy is not the primary focus of a lot of Americans until it becomes the only thing that they can focus on. And Benjamin Netanyahu is making sure that basically this is the only thing that America's focused on by, you know, consistently doing fuck shit. Anyway, so the rapidly escalating confrontation between Israel, Hezbollah, and Hezbollah's ally Iran has undercut Biden's efforts to achieve peace through diplomacy. Shocking. I'm honored to have included in this list right alongside many talented leaders. Thank you, Jerusalem Post, for recognizing our work in the fight against anti-Semitism. Jake Trapper, Dana Bash, and Ben Shapiro. Jews in the news. Gal Gadot, Michael Rappaport, Noah Tishby, and Eden Golan. Defending Israel with charm. That's funny. Here it is. Here's one of the many different instances where I've talked about this. This is really solid positions overall, with one obvious, glaringly obvious weakness, which is Israel, which is just like standing there waiting to be the October surprise. That is not even a fucking surprise. It's like everybody knows that Benjamin Netanyahu is in the tank for Donald Trump and is getting increasingly more unhinged every single fucking day. And like not trying to put forward like weapons transfers as a condition in an effort to curb Israel back, like in an effort to rein Israel in, is basically just allowing them to run the table.
Yeah.
Down to the motherfucking date, baby. I told you. I fucking told you.
Their calculus is, if we say, like, you know, weapons will never be conditioned, maybe they won't try to fuck us in October. And it's like, they're probably going to do that anyway, I would assume. I don't know if they're...
Has, like, accidentally... It seems to me like Dems calling for a ceasefire feels like the most obvious posturing ever, since they literally control the flow of weapons. Am I oversimplifying this? You are not oversimplifying this at all. History has shown that, especially when you look at America's relationship with Israel, time and time again, the United States has restrained Israel and stopped them after they drew some blood. Okay, no one's going to mention how accurate your analysis was either. I know that's not the point. I'm just saying, I'm telling you what the fuck is going to happen before it fucking happens. So just remember when, like, all of these losers online or wherever the fuck are like, oh, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. His understanding of all these issues is like super surface level. There's a reason why I'm literally fucking correct. And all of those guys that say shit like this oftentimes are caught with their dicks out in the wind. Doesn't really matter ultimately, because as long as you are on the side of the State Department, your misinformation that you spread never gets brought to the forefront, because you're doing the misinformation basically alongside mainstream media anyway. So is it misinformation? It might as well be the truth. Lies might as well be the truth if everyone is saying it. If you were advising Harris, what do you think would be the smart way for her to distance from Biden and do the right thing? I mean, I've been saying this over and over again. I was like, I know there's some fucking campaign staffers and whatnot in here. Okay. I've been screaming from the rooftop since the Kamala Harris swap for Kamala Harris to separate herself from Joseph Robinette Brandon. I've used historic examples. Specifically LBJ, which is the closest comparison you can arrive at in terms of like separating from Biden on this deeply unpopular war before it is too late. They have refused to do so the entire way, the entire step of the process. Joe Biden, who was losing to Donald Trump on the issue of Israel by like 25 points, Kamala Harris came in and literally was like, oh, this deeply unpopular thing that Joe Biden was doing that led to him basically losing the election in all the polls, which led to me changing, being swapped in for Biden. I'm going to tell the world I'm actually in the tank for it. Okay? I'm going to tell the world in the historically stupid fashion, in this like unprecedentedly stupid way, I'm going to tell everybody I'm exactly like Joe Biden on this issue. This will certainly win me some favors. With who? Who knows? It's very stupid. Even if the Dems don't care about the morality of genocide, not halting weapons transfers to force Israel to ceasefire is insane. Dems are leaving themselves at the mercy of an Israeli Trump, Bibi, who literally loves Trump. He will give the Dems an October surprise with war. Man, who could have seen that coming? That's crazy. To the Harris staffers in the chat, please be smart and do something. They can't do nothing, dude. It doesn't matter. And I said it over and over again that Democrats, if they don't care about this issue on the morality front, I actively argued on a cold, calculated, soulless front as well, just purely on electoral bounds. Okay. Do you think a war in the Middle East will massively swing the elections? Like, isn't war only usually unpopular if America's directly involved and our troops aren't hurt? Well, I mean, Israel's actions are trying to desperately bring American troops into the fray. So there's also one other aspect of this conversation that I think many Americans do not recognize. Remember, when Americans say nothing ever happens, they mean nothing ever happens to them. They get the benefit from living in the imperial core. They get the benefit from being thousands of miles away because things are happening all the time. Death and destruction is permanent, especially if you're in the global south. The issue, however, is when you go to war with Iran, if you strike their fucking nuclear facilities, for example, and then Iran retaliates by lighting the entire oil refineries in the fucking Gulf on fire, all of a sudden things are happening to you because, and this is something that, again, I've said for months. Another thing that I've reiterated is going to war with Iran isn't necessarily just like boots on the ground and horrifying warfare, okay? American troops being drawn into battle. That's a problem, but that's not the only issue, okay? From an electoral calculus, that also means all of a sudden the price of fucking oil is skyrocketing. The supply is diminished. The refinery capabilities are gone. Why are they gone? Because Iran knows how fucking wars are conducted. You just light their fucking refineries on fire. And in the words of the IRGC commander in Iraq that said, if we cannot have these benefits, you can't either. That's what they said. It's basically mutually assured destruction. Mutually assured destruction, specifically on the basis of oil, okay? On the basis of energy. Yeah, Fango Lives is in here. I have been told I should be shouting Ya Ali about destroying oil refineries. Yeah, Fango Lives is in the chat. He wasn't in the chat yesterday. He is a recent revert to Shia Islam. Our EV journalist, Fango Lives, is officially, if the oil refineries in the Gulf are lit on fire, if the oil refineries on the Gulf are lit on fire, he has said that he is going to find the light of Islam and become a Shia Muslim. And that he is that much in the tank for fucking renewable energy, okay? One of the funniest aspects of the vote blue no matter who dingus is just like the same bad instincts that they had with like maintaining this posture that Brandon, they're Brandon dead enders. They're going to go with Biden all the way across the finish line is the same bad instincts that they've demonstrated on this Israel stuff. They literally just regurgitate whatever the fuck the Democrats are telling them. Okay. They are so goddamn annoying about it, not recognizing that Brandon is cooking the fucking books. He is cooking his own party's chances of winning the fucking election. That's what's really frustrating about this entire process too, is getting to a point where unless Kamala Harris does the thing that is unthinkable, okay, and you know, goes against, and even then it might be too fucking late, by the way, but it goes against the Biden administration and says like, I'm parting ways with the Biden administration on the issue of Israel. We have to stop. We have to put an end to this fucking senseless bloodshed. We have to put weapons transfers on the table in an effort to get Israel to the table to engage in a ceasefire. Enough is enough. The entire region is about to be on fire. Unless she says that, which is laughable to think. I don't think she's going to say that at all. She hasn't said it for the past, couple of months. I heard you say the phrase most significant, least influential line over and over again. Voting is not ultimately all that consequential, and it's not all that significant in terms of like just going out and like fucking signing the dotted line. But with the minimal amount of effort that you spend doing that, you do end up playing a role in the outcome of the elections in a certain way. Okay. But especially in terms of like voting locally, I think it's a very important thing to do. I always advocate to vote down ballot and also vote for ballot measures in general. I think a fresh celebrity endorsement will save her campaign. Yeah, totally. They should do another they should do a Lin-Manuel Miranda, Tim Kaine and the membrane thing, and that'll definitely fucking fix it. I aggregated 21 polls showing a ceasefire weapons embargo would help Harris win. It's not shocking, but just aggregated them for reference. Use these numbers.ghost.io. Thank you, chatter. Here are 21 polls that show a ceasefire and weapons embargo will help Kamala win. The post is very simple. I've aggregated 21 polls that show immense popularity of a ceasefire and emphasize the positive impact of a weapons embargo would have on Kamala Harris's chances of winning the election. If she's desperately looking for voters, there are hundreds of thousands of them that would literally change their outcome and change their outlook. Okay? Verity Hamilton? Oh no.
2024. How does the bastion of the West democratically search out how to stay united as we churn out vitriol and bots and memes and try to work out how we can rebuild the trust and boost the turnout?
Apathy, finger-pointing idle institutions, threats of retribution and a threatened constitution. Not so fast. See, our founding fathers brought their wisdom, listing ways to coexist with our election system.
It hasn't failed us yet, and though it feels contentious, it's the only free and fair arena for consensus.
It'll never not be weird to me, and maybe I need like a Black American person to explain this concept to me, but like it just feels so weird to talk about the founding fathers in a positive manner as a Black person. Like I just don't understand it at all. I will never understand it. It doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know. I'm a white dude. I'm Turkish. I'm like far removed from this process. So like, I just genuinely don't get it. This is a liberal version of that. So I don't understand it extra hard. Like I see what, like you get Black conservatives who will wear like a 1776 shirt or whatever. And I like kind of understand that a little bit, but anyway, let's continue.
It's not perfection, but let's soften our objection. We simply gotta focus in on this election.
It's like loving Atatürk as an Armenian. Yeah, straight up. Yes, sweetie. Preach.
The battle for access.
You could say it's common sense we're voting for. In 2020, women
I'm gonna be honest, we've literally fucking lost, like we've lost the sauce a little bit. I'm permanently sauceless. This video has been out for 2 fucking weeks and not a single one of you motherfuckers sent it to me until now. Like, this is so in the pocket. This is so extremely my shit. I could have been using for the past 2 weeks this specific video to punish you goddamn libtards every time you get libbed up. And for the past 2 weeks, I didn't even know this existed. It's fucked up.
10 million more. You say the loss is destructive. I say it's reproductive. So let my message be instructive. We've won each time our rights were gambled, and we're picking reps who will persist.
And if you call me a suffragist, then check the internet, cause here I'm a suffragist.
Word.
Look it up, check your status at whenweallvote.org.
Look it up, status at WM or text 3 friends.
That's like, dude, this is so ass, dude. When you put a .org in the song, dude, it's so, god damn, it's so ass. So what did they just say? Maybe I don't need all of my senses. Hey, yo, this shit is, oh my god, this is so deeply 2016. I love it. I love it, dude. This is, whoo, look it up,
.org. Next TM or text 3 friends to check for sure they are registered in the state or city they live now. Even better, you can show them how to register.
Cause it's easy to make it a norm. Go online, you can fill out a form, and then early voting can become a routine or through the mail vote absentee. If you it can ease your anxiety, voting your conscience upon your society. Make a healthier habit when you fill out a ballot.
Coming.
Election season, the moment we've been waiting for. I am not throwing away my vote, folks. We need all the help we can get. Go call your friends, sign up, organize, make sure they don't forget. Okay, what else?
rally to fight any efforts to disenfranchise.
Do you guys understand why this shit sucks? Like, aside from how fucking cringe it is, because there's a lot of people who are like, oh, you don't understand. At least they're trying. Like, at least they're trying their best. It's like, no, they're not. This demonstrates the major problem with the Democratic Party politics. This entire song is about, oh, just go out and vote. Let's go get our friends to also go out and vote. Let's register to vote. What about the access to be able to vote? They're trying to take that away. That's a trick. They don't want you to vote. Bro, there are no issues in this fucking song whatsoever. It doesn't like address any of the problems. Just simply saying go out and vote is not going to fucking move the needle. It's not going to get people to go out and vote. That's why I hate those like get out the vote initiatives that I have also participated in the past as well. Like, it needs to be associated with like something to go out and vote for, okay? And if at the tippy top the campaign is not communicating what those changes are going to be, it's just not substantive, okay? If I'm going to make like a serious, if I'm going to have a serious moment here and talk about like beyond all the cringe shit, like the major problem here is that there is not really anything steering people in the right direction. There is no like communication structure from the Democratic Party that says like, these are the things that Americans are feeling. This is how we're going to solve those problems. Okay. In areas where they try to do that, they, I think, fail in a spectacular fashion. There are certain aspects of the Kamala Harris campaign that they could be pushing on, like fucking combating price gouging. You know what I mean? Not saying that these guys should rap about that. That would still be fucking whack as fuck. But like, you know, just simply going out and be like, just vote. Voting is fun. It's cool. It's sick. You should go out and vote. You should go out and vote. Like, who the fuck's going to get tricked by this? This actually encouraged me to unregister. Yeah. This is making me not even want to vote down ballot, bro.
They feel bureaucratic, but our system's democratic. We can buck the status quo if we stay at it. So, election, vote. Election, vote. Election, vote.
Here comes the general. Vote for what's right, ham fam.
vote.
I think one of the funniest parts about this is that like the ham fam, you know, Hamilton fans, they already are 1000% voting already. They're voting illegally. Okay. So, you know, anyway, this is Hamilton. In my 2024 crazy notification received on Monday, history has its eyes on us. You know, it's bad when Hamilton comes out making a song about this election, which is truly a battle for the direction and soul of America. How is America so screwed that Hamilton, it has to reemerge from his grave to tell us all to vote? I'm shaking. Oh my God. This is for our asexual, biromantic president, Donald Trump. Bro, no deadass. This makes young people hate progressives is suicide. I'm sure there's like lived up ass young voters out there too that get like hyped up about this. I just think it's like, do you think God doesn't visit us anymore because of how cringe their creation was? Yes. God gave up a long time ago after Tim Kaine and the membrane. It was solidified. Okay. It was like, nah, we're done. We're done with this. I'm packing this shit up. Obama was right. Americans deserve nothing like the health care that he could have gotten us. I just, like I have repeated, like I've repeated for the past month or so, there are like 4 or 5 different key issues that are supposed to be like the perfect thing that Democrats can address as a counterweight to the Republican mania and madness that have occurred in the past month. Okay. Like just straight up devastating things that Republicans and like reactionary right-wing politics are directly responsible for, whether it be mass shootings and gun violence, whether it be fucking massive hurricane damage, okay? And or whether it be like insanely fucking right-wing sentiment about undocumented migrants, like lies about them, you know, direct lies about them. All of these things, or, you know, endless war in the Middle East. These are all supposed to be in the past things that the Republicans advocate for and the things that the Democrats are supposed to fight against. They have completely dropped it. Most of those things now the Democrats themselves push for. So they can't even use it. And if you can't use it, well, then you lose it, you know? Who the fuck's going to who's going to listen to you? Anyway. Is there not enough movement for another party to emerge? It's just not. That's not how this works. Play this on election day when Kamala loses. I mean, look, man, things are not looking great for Kamala Harris. Okay, things are not looking great for Kamala Harris at all. Okay, it's not. There's no reason to fucking sugarcoat it. The polls are insanely fucking tight. At this point, like, you're looking at potentially a marginal victory in Pennsylvania. If that doesn't come, cooked. Okay? If Pennsylvania doesn't swing, it's cooked. Okay? It's Jover. Not to be a Nate Silver, Nate Bronze type Andy over here, but straight up. Are you going to react to the new Johnny Harris vid, or do I watch my own? Tell me no. Tell me now. Yeah, I'll watch it. The old election doomerism arc. Love to see it. I mean, it's not. It's like not even an arc. It's just it's like the October surprise being an October promise, right? It was telegraphed. And this was also telegraphed. How was this telegraphed? What did I say? The only reason why there was a lot of momentum for Kamala Harris, and the only reason why there was a lot of momentum after that swap out before the DNC was specifically because Kamala Harris represented a change, okay? She was not like an embarrassing person to go out and vote for, to go out to bat for, in the same way that like this, hollowed out carcass like Brandon was, right? All of a sudden people were like, whoa, wait a minute. This is exciting. They're responding to public pressure. And it's crazy because she has basically adopted all of the worst parts of the Brandon campaign. And there's some communication in the background, at least according to like some of the big donors that Kamala Harris has spoken to directly. According to them, she's going to make changes at the SEC and FTC, which is insane to think about. It's like, so you're just going to be worse than Biden? Like, you're going to be more right wing than Biden? That's psychotic. Like, the only good salvageable aspects of the Biden administration, you're just going to fucking rip apart? That's insane. All the worst aspects of the Biden administration, permanent genocide, you're on board with. Everyone has been, no, I'm not going to look at the fucking naked Trump statue. I don't care. I know. It was in Nevada. There's one in Arizona too, okay? I don't give a shit. During the Teamsters September meeting with Harris, a board member asked Harris for a commitment that she would keep Khan in place at the FTC. According to people familiar with the exchange, Harris declined to make any promises. That's not what I'm talking about. There's another person. New reporting came out literally today, I'm pretty sure, of two donors that spoke to Kamala Harris directly that got assurances that changes would be coming. I'm sure you can find it. Is it the Financial Times article? Oh, here it is. Yeah. Two finance executives close to Harris said she had reassured them she could appoint new officials to the Securities and Exchange Commission and the FTC who would take a less aggressive stance than the current respective chairs, Gary Gensler and Lena Khan, according to FT. And I trust FT a lot more than I trust Wall Street Journal. This is the real shit. Where did the Kamala Harris thing go? Oh, Harris's Wall Street charm begins. Is this the one? Is this the article? You are a little naive to think that she would have changed her positions compared to Joe. They're both horrible, but Joe had a reputation he could fall back on. She just pronounces words better than him. No, I don't care about Kamala Harris's personal ambitions and personal motivations. It was not naivete. I was reacting to the unceremonious and unusual nature of the Democratic Party behaving like a competent party, albeit for a brief moment. Okay? That's it. It was the appropriate reaction at the time. Do you understand? And I kept reiterating that this would be good if they followed through on this momentum and kept making bold and radical proclamations, but it would be devastating if they went back to their old school bullshit, rush to the middle. And I openly stated that. I told you that it would be awful. It would be dog shit if they rushed to the middle. And I was afraid that they would. And then they started communicating that they were rushing to the middle. And predictably, it cut the momentum entirely. It directly cut the momentum of the Democratic Party and the ticket. Let's not fucking rewrite history here, okay? And I saw it with my own two fucking eyes at the DNC. It's not backtrack Andy, it was correct Andy. I was cautiously optimistic, responding to the unceremonious nature in which the Democratic Party responded to public pressure. They've never done that. Here is David Dayen. Buried in here is a pretty problematic development. Harris has hosted corporate chief executives, including Ryan McInerney. What? How do you say that? McInerney, who is the CEO of Visa. The Justice Department had just filed an antitrust suit against Visa for making pay to delay deals to sustain its payment duopoly. The CEO of CVS, Karen Lynch, was also listed as someone who got direct outreach from the candidate. The FTC has sued big three pharmacy benefits managers for jacking up the price of insulin, including CVS. Its Caremark division is a top PBM. These are the heads of companies under federal lawsuit. Likely witnesses in the cases getting direct access to the potentially next president. Whose administration will take over those cases? Good thing Republicans don't read the Financial Times, I guess. The Republicans don't give a shit because they would do the exact same thing. That's the problem. Every day that goes by, it unironically makes me feel like AOC and Bernie Sanders might have been fucking right for warning us, you know? Perhaps we were wrong. They were like, hey, do you want genocide with a side of like at least somewhat reliable domestic politics that is like more pro-labor and more fucking pro-consumer protections than any other fucking historic presidential administration? Or do you want permanent genocide with less of that? They're like, nope, genocide is going to happen no matter what. I don't know. Unless Harris starts telling better lies, I'm going to throw my vote at Jill Stein. New Nevada poll. Nevada from John Ralston, one of the most important. John Ralston is the Nevada guy, for those of you who don't know, in terms of like, you know, if you're an election watcher. Nevada, Harris up 3, Rosen up 7. That's shocking that Rosen is only up 7. That's not good. Harris is up 3. That's also not good. That's kind of weird. Donald Trump at 44. Kamala Harris at 47. I hate to be a tease. Actually, I really don't. But we have something very interesting in Nevada poll results coming tomorrow from one of the country's most respected guys in the field. Wake up early. Worth mentioning that Jackie Rosen is one of the most Zionist psychopaths in the Senate, unfortunately. Yeah, that's neither here nor there. The person that Jackie Rosen's up against is also a non-entity who is polling genuinely horribly. He's the troop that is like who was lit on fire. With no fucking like Sam Brown is a perfect demonstration of like the new Republican Party and how they just like fuck the bag up for no reason, okay? And Jackie Rosen has been putting up like LeBron numbers against this dude for the longest time. The fact that it's like now down to 7 points is actually a little surprising. Don't forget Ralston is a turbo asshole who still brings up the 2016 Dem primary stuff. Yeah, I don't care. His you know, he is from Nevada and he is consistent and reliable. So I'm obviously going to fucking listen to what he has to say. A lot of these guys are turbo assholes, though, of course. Here's the thing. I'm trying to look objectively at it. Isn't what she's doing what's necessary to flip purple states and win over Republicans? I feel coming out in opposition of isn't real and going super left is what would cause her to lose the election. No, here it is. I'm neurospicy. Doesn't she need to flip Republicans, not appeal to minority left? No, that's not the truth at all. There are hundreds of thousands of fucking voters. There is like you're looking at a massive boost if she were to flip the script on Israel. What do I mean by this? There are no actual voters, right? There are no voters that are like, I'm invested in permanent genocide in Gaza and also more war in Lebanon. There's not a single voter that is a likely Democratic Party voter that wants that demands that. They do exist. They are just at the base of support, some of the most firmly committed Republican voters, right? These are the evangelicals. They love the fact that like abortion is restricted. They want Israel to do genocide. They think, you know, Jews are the chosen sons of daughters of God and they must maintain Israel, the greater Israel, so that like the rapture can happen, all this stuff, right? They're insane. They are some of the most committed Republican Party voters out there. So those voters do exist. It's just they're never going to vote for the Democratic Party. In terms of like the broad majority of the American population, they just either A, don't want to fucking think about Israel ever again, right? They were just like, please stop this fucking war shit. I don't want to see blown up children on TV. I just don't even want to think about it. My kids are annoying me about fucking Israel, Palestine. I just don't care. Just stop. That's like a lot of likely voters for one reason or another that want a ceasefire to happen. Like the most overwhelming majority support for a ceasefire. How do you get there? If you're the administration that is supplying Israel with weapons, you get there by making one phone call and saying no more weapons transfers unless you fucking get to the table, unless you stop bombing. These are the conditions. Okay? Permanent genocide is a deeply unpopular position, and it's not even in existence within the Democratic Party's base of support, or even within the independent voters, or even within, like, it's not even in the margins, right? Like, there's no one that's like, I really, really, really want Israel to continue pummeling Gaza and kill as many people as possible. So that's number one. Number two, the idea that there's like a marginal voter, like a marginal base of leftist voters is also a silly one, because if Kamala Harris came out and reiterated her commitment to combating price gouging, that's a radical leftist policy, right? Donald Trump keeps calling it like Commie Harris. Kamala Harris is a comrade. She's insane. She's a Marxist. It's her most popular policy. It has only polled higher every time she's mentioned it. At the starting point, it was at like 76%. Now it's at 83%. In that same time frame, from 76 to 83% popularity, Donald Trump kept calling her a fucking Marxist, said this is going to be like Venezuela. Why? Because Americans don't give a fuck. They're like, I'm hurting. My pockets are hurting. Inflation is eating away at the marginal gains that I've made in my wage growth. I want the shit to be fixed. When Kamala Harris actually addresses that, which is an incredibly, profoundly radical and profoundly leftist policy, Americans don't give a shit. They like it. The greatest example of this is motherfucking Tim Walz. Tim Walz is Kamala Harris's vice president. Tim Walz also happens to be the governor of Minnesota. Tim Walz did a lot of these radical, bold policies in Minnesota, and they were objectively popular. He was able to do this with a one-seat majority in the state Senate in Minnesota. They literally showed the method. They showed exactly what can be done if you have even if you have a marginal majority, okay, with a one-seat majority, you can bring about paid family leave. You can bring about programs where, you feed children for free. These are all things that are objectively popular, okay? And that's what's so disastrous about this with respect to Kamala Harris's campaigning strategy, hyper-focusing on like these supposed key Republicans in the suburbs that are going to flip for her, that are going to go for her and not for Donald Trump because they hate the aesthetics of Donald Trump. And there is so many voters out there that could be motivated to go out and vote if you address their problems. There's also so many voters that you could probably flip if you address those problems from the Republican Party's base of support as well. Because at the end of the day, there are plenty of people who still want to make sure, no matter how angry, no matter how bloodthirsty they might be, no matter how much they think like immigrants are eating cats and dogs or whatever the fuck, they still go to the fucking grocery store and see the prices. And if Kamala Harris made an active effort to say, no, we're going to fix that problem for you, they might even be more interested in possibly voting for her. So the opportunities are endless. The problem is the Democratic Party actively campaigns to the center, actively campaigns to the right, and then the media tells you, the voters, and everyone else that pays attention to this, because you guys are high propensity voters. You are incredibly informed. Even if you're not going to go out and vote, you're still incredibly informed. This is a community comprised of people who are a million times more informed than the average voter, for good reason or for bad reason, whatever. Maybe you're just, it's your hyperfixation, doesn't matter. You are extremely informed. This is not for you. Having said that, however, there are still a lot of people that come in here that are also hyper informed, that only get their information from MSNBC, CNN, New York Times without applying any sort of critical thinking to it. So they just come in here and basically regurgitate what they heard over there. And what they heard over there is almost always the same. The Democratic Party is doing this because there's a method to this. There's a reason for this. They're doing the smart move by moving to the center. They're doing the smart move by moving to the right. They're going to flip all of these fucking voters in the suburbs and they're going to win. Except it doesn't show in the polls at all. That has not showed up in the polls. If that was the case, the Democratic Party has massive coffers. They have a massive war purse that they've been able to put together due to the original swap out and the momentum that came from the original swap out between Joe Biden to Kamala Harris. They raised $1 billion fucking dollars in a very short period of time. And they've been pummeling these key swing states and key districts with ads, reaffirming the Kamala Harris's like shitty ass campaign strategy, okay? Repeating over and over again. And yet the polls have not moved. What does that show you? What does that show you? That shows you that the messaging is not working. Kamala Harris, unlike Donald Trump, is a dynamic candidate. She is, when she originally came onto the scene as the presidential candidate, she was a lesser known entity. There was a lot of advantages to being a lesser known entity that close to the actual fucking election. She could have used that blank slate that the American population gave her as a way to say, this is the bold, radical, this is the bold, radical change agenda that we're going to put. 65% of American voters, according to that New York Times poll that we looked at a month ago, wanted change. 65% of all voters wanted change from the Biden administration. Remember that, 65%. Only 25% thought Kamala Harris represented that change. That is a devastating poll. These are alarm bells after alarm bells ringing in a competent campaign that looks at that and goes, oh my God, we got to change our messaging. We got to change our communications. We shouldn't be hugging and kissing Joe Biden this aggressively. But the media plays the same song and dance. Okay? They play the role of basically making you dull and basically fucking deluding you into thinking, no, there is a reason for this. There is a good reason for this. She's going to flip these Republican voters and it's going to be awesome. Meanwhile, every time she portrays herself as like a Republican, but, gay, there are a shit ton of voters that she's leaving behind in the normal progressive wing of the party. Young voters, Latino voters, black and brown voters that would be more motivated to go out and vote. And more importantly than just go out and vote, door knock. The activist base of the party is profoundly important because grassroots mobilization is profoundly important for turnout for the Democratic Party. But when you don't actually get those guys, they're not going to go out and fucking vote. I'm sure there are door knockers for the Harris campaign in this community, wonderful individuals who are kind-hearted. I know for a fact that there are people who get their doors knocked on, and the thing that they reiterate to the door knockers is, I'm not voting for Kamala Harris unless she changes course on Gaza. And when they say that to the door knockers, like, what are they supposed to do? Hassan, you're saying it's a bad idea that they're going after 9 people instead of 90 million? Yes. Just a thought. Don't execute me. Maybe they're trying to demotivate Trump's base by presenting a center-right Kamala. Why do you think they're targeting the center and right so much? Because they're right-wing, dog. That's it. Okay? That's the real reason. If you want to know what the real reason is because they care about moneyed interests more than they care about their constituents, and that they would rather have a close election, one that they might even inevitably lose, with a close election where they push for very conservative policies and gear up the base for the inevitable conservative policies, because it's like somewhat of a uniparty on a lot of issues when it comes to immigration now, when it comes to foreign policy. It's always been uniparty. When it comes to deregulation and taxation or cutting taxes, it's pretty consistent. So they would rather prime the American base of like whoever fucking still votes out there to be more susceptible to this sort of right-wing ratcheting than actually put forward a clear and coherent agenda that is a counterbalance to creeping fascism, accelerating fascism coming from the Republican right. You don't have to look any further than what happened to the Labour Party in the UK to see exactly what's going on in America. Are you discounting how many Zionist Democrats are out there who are progressive except for Palestine? Look at campuses at University of Michigan, UCLA. Yeah, you're crazy if you think that this constitutes a decent base of support within the Democratic Party. You're out of your mind. No polling shows that, for the record. Polling shows the exact opposite, as a matter of fact. Even if you were to look at American Jews, which is a reliable Democratic Party voting bloc, 75% usually goes to the Democratic Party. Israel is like their 9th priority out of the top 10. Okay? The notion that like American Jews are going to not vote for Kamala Harris because she changes trajectory on something that most American Jews, as well as like most Americans in general, want in terms of like getting this foreign country, Israel, to do a ceasefire is silly. That's another lie that people tell you. That's another lie that the media reiterates and people don't think about it critically. It's funny to think, though, that like, you know, I mean, Jews live in what? In large numbers, Jews live in Florida, New York, and California. Okay? Like, they are not a monolithic voting bloc regardless, and Israel is not their single issue regardless. But even if it was, it's pretty funny to think like, what, you think Kamala Harris is going to change trajectory on Israel, and then this voting bloc is going to turn around and what, turn fucking New York red? No, of course not. Anyway, it's not necessarily just about Israel regardless. There's plenty of other things that the Democratic Party should be doing on the domestic front that they're not doing at all, and it's very frustrating to see as they desperately gear towards like further and further right-wing policies. Obviously, immigration is very important to me. It's something that I am genuinely frustrated by in terms of the way that the Democratic Party is communicated. I think it's very, very dumb. Okay? Kamala Harris and everyone else is relying on the fact that people won't care about Israel when the time comes. And there are plenty who don't, because it's under the banner of American foreign policy. And the system is designed in a way where you don't have to think about American foreign policy, because if you did, you'd go fucking crazy. Understand this, okay? Having said that, however, there are people who do care. And if you're trying to win as many voters as possible, you can't on the one side say, well, Americans don't really give a shit about Israel. It's not up there, okay? It's not really up there on the list of priorities, even though there are hundreds of thousands of people in key constituencies. It is a very important priority. In states like Michigan, for example, okay? If you are desperately looking for as many votes as possible, then why the fuck aren't you looking at those people when there is no downside, only upside? No downside whatsoever. There is no downside to changing trajectory on Israel and only upside. It is mind-boggling. This was funny, yeah. Photos show New York congressman in blackface as Michael Jackson. Representative Mike Lawler, a Republican locked in a tight race for re-election, dressed up as a pop star for Halloween as a college student in 2006. His response to this was really funny. He was like, it wasn't blackface. It was the furthest thing from my mind. I actually was doing cultural appreciation. Once again, the issue with Israel is not just one that is electorally beneficial for the Democrats if they change trajectory. It's also truly morally repugnant. Okay? Like, I don't care if every American was screaming from the fucking rooftops going, "Am Israel high," I'd still be maintaining my position. Okay? I would still be saying the same damn shit as, and you can point to the evidence of the past 10 years of my advocacy on this issue, when obviously the dynamic was very different in terms of the way that Americans thought about Gaza or Palestinians or Palestine or Israel at all. Just so you know. But I do find it not only morally repugnant, but I also, recognize the reality that most people don't see the situation in the way that these dummies of the Democratic Party see the situation as. It makes, what is this?
Stop. Yes? Yeah, of course they are. It's been a terrible response from the White House. They're missing $1 billion that was used for another purpose, and nobody's seen anything like that. Now, from that standpoint, it's been terrible.
He's answering questions from alongside Governor Kemp, holding a press conference in Evans, Georgia, talking about hurricane relief. They got a Chick-fil-A box right there. That's my goat.
Bigger than anything else, but we're thinking about lives, a lot of lives lost, a lot of people missing. and that's what I'd be focused on right now.
President, you talk about the economy a lot out on the campaign trail. It's a very important issue to do with your voters as well. Jobs are up. The stock market hit that all-time high. Do you acknowledge that?
No, it's not. It's inflation has devastated our economy. It's one of the big problems we have. And on jobs, we have the illegals have taken more jobs than anybody else. You have illegals coming in and they're taking the jobs. And when you look at the numbers from that standpoint, it's a shame. We have to get the jobs to the people that have lived here for a long time.
I'm actually shocked that he hasn't said that illegals are responsible for the hurricane yet. Like, all things considered, it's like,
who's getting the jobs?
you know, that's the one aspect that he hasn't really polished. My answer is, at the top of the hour, there's a 3-minute ad break. Back in the day, Americans used to get gifted subs. Now it's illegals that get the gifted subs at the Hasanabi broadcast. The gifted subs Americans needed to avoid the 3-minute ad break at the top of the hour, believe me, folks. But you can also subscribe for $6 under brand inflation. Here's the 3-minute ad break now. Oh, it's coming? Yes, they can control the weather. It's ridiculous for anyone to lie and say it can't be done. Oh, shit, she's back to her old tricks, bro.
Well, I won it easily in 2016.
Oh, that's so sick. I wonder who she means when she says they.
Came up, we're up 7. So I think we're pretty far up, and we seem.
Yo, is she back? Is she back?
We're gonna keep it that way.
She forgot all about the school trip that she had to do to the Holocaust Museum and the paper that she wrote about how I'm Marjorie Taylor Greene. I'm sorry for saying that Jews have a space laser. I have found out that Jews do not have a space laser. They, however, do control the media and also the weather. No space laser, but I have not changed my mind on the weather machine that Jews have. It is obvious to me. This is a map of the hurricane-affected areas with an overlay of electoral map. Political parties show how hurricane devastation could affect the election. They are doing it. Anyway, the port streamers, they have the hardest job. Immigrants are stealing the streaming jobs. Anyway, good stuff. Cool stuff. Asheville, North Carolina is very liberal, but I guess they did a bad job by moving to North Carolina, or I have decided that God did that because there are gays in Asheville, North Carolina. That's probably what happened. Anyway, what is it? A second black Nazi Republican just dropped? What? I don't even know what you mean by that. Okay. We'll get back to all of that stuff, but let's get started on the jobs report this morning, blowing way past expectations, showing a hiring surge. But guess what? Illegals are the ones that are taking over those jobs. It doesn't matter.
We have breaking news now. The new jobs report is showing U.S. employers added 254,000 jobs in September, a sign of a sturdy labor market. Meanwhile, the unemployment rate fell to 4.1%, changing just slightly from last month. ABC News business reporter Alexis Christoforous is here to break down those numbers for us. Alexis, what does this tell you about the economy right now?
Wow, Diane, this is a blockbuster jobs report, and I don't really think anybody saw it coming. We see the stock market rallying on this news. This is that sweet spot the Federal Reserve has been working so hard to attain, a slowdown in inflation, a cooling off of prices, but not pushing the economy into a recession. So this report tells us that we have still a solid job market, 254,000 jobs added, and actually July and August numbers were revised to show 72,000 more jobs added than previously reported. When we take a little deeper dive in, we saw wages inched up a bit, but not enough to fan inflation once again, and also jobs added in food and services, drinking places, healthcare, government, social assistance, and construction. Those were the areas that we saw the most jobs added, Diane.
Now, just 32 days from the election, how do you think these numbers could impact what voters do at the polls?
This could, well, look, we know that the economy and inflation continue to be a top priority for voters. So these numbers are very positive. I have to think that President Biden will be coming out soon to praise these numbers. And it looks good for the Biden-Harris campaign as they move closer to the election. But this is also the last clean report we're going to get. by that, I mean before the election. And that's because the October report will reflect Hurricane Helene. It will reflect this short-lived dock worker strike that we saw. And there's also a work stoppage in parts of the Boeing company. So all of those things can play on the October report and skew it. So this is sort of the last clean report where we get a pretty good picture of the overall job market.
And Alexis, I just want to point out, you said Biden-Harris campaign, but I know you meant the Harris-Walz campaign, but it's been a very confusing election season.
The Biden administration.
By the way, remember, this is supposed to be the reasonable Republicans, okay? Marco Rubio, okay? Marco Rubio is supposed to be the reasonable Republican, the adult in the room. What does he have to say about the jobs report? Another fake jobs report from the Biden-Harris government today. 16 of the last 17 reports have been significantly revised downwards after media helps them with their fake headlines. But all the fake numbers in the world aren't going to fool people dealing with the Biden-Harris economic disaster every day. Here's the Fox News reaction to the jobs report.
What, David Bonson is with us this morning. Great to have you here, David. All right, strong jobs report. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It's funny because Fox Business is a business program. So while being objectively right-wing, they still have to do accurate analysis on things like this. Like Fox editorial on the Fox News front, they can say whatever the fuck they want. They can be like, these jobs are fake. Okay. The economy's in the pooper, but these guys still have to be relatively accurate because it's the business side. You know what I mean? So let's hear what they had to say.
I agree with Warren. It's really hard to put a negative spin on this. It was a good jobs report. Yeah. The unemployment rate lower, the total jobs number higher. Because I'm a long-term, big picture macroeconomist, I'm always worried about the lower labor participation force. I want more people in the workforce. But as far as the percentage of people that are in the workforce and looking for a job, a good portion of them have one. It's pretty easy right now to hold a job, but at the end of the day, wages are what a lot of people are looking to, Ash, and real wages have kept up pretty good here as of late, so it's a good report.
Guess what, David Bonson.
I can't conceive how Biden has 50 years of political experience and can't come up with a shitty deal to stop the strike. Reagan would never let this happen. Thankfully, capitals became lazy as fuck at fucking the labor movement. Wait, what? I mean, Biden literally objected to putting a Taft-Hartley on the strikers. Listen, do not ever expect me to lie to you. Okay. I will always be honest. If you ask me something that Biden is doing that's good, I'm going to tell you. Okay. Honesty is the policy here. And he straight up was like, nope, I'm standing with the ILA strikers. I believe in collective bargaining. He said those words. Okay. This is, by the way, the second time. I don't know if this is real or not. We're told Pete Buttigieg was the point man for the administration getting the agreement to suspend the port strike, named specifically by both sides in the press release. Is quiet but effective leadership people appreciate. Pete Buttigieg, this is the second time Pete Buttigieg has been named. If this is correct, I haven't seen it yet. But this would literally be the second time that Pete Buttigieg has actually negotiated on the side of a union quietly. Don't know if this is accurate for this one, but he was literally credited. He was credited in the union papers for the railroad strikers by name. It wasn't Pete. It was the acting labor secretary. He's trying to steal valor. Oh, no, but the unions have credited him for it before. It's not the first time this has happened. Our members, B-Trades and SoCal, heard it was Julie Su that made it happen. I think so, too. Julie Su was named by name by the ILA leader, saying she's out there door knocking for us and screaming bloody murder. Oh, here it is. Okay, never mind. Seen some viral tweets suggesting Pete Buttigieg single-handedly resolved the port strike. Acting Labor Secretary Julie Su, a woman with less visibility, was at the union headquarters all day yesterday working on this, just not on TV. The ILA's president called Su terrific. Yeah. Julie Su is the acting labor secretary, chat. A person who was named directly, okay? Striking dock workers just told Charleston NBC affiliate that an agreement has been reached about two major points, automation and pay, and work will resume throughout the year's end while the final deal is hammered. Thank Julie Su and Pete Buttigieg by name. So they might have given Pete Buttigieg some credit. This is not the first time that this has happened. This is the second time this is happening. with yet another negotiation resolving. The first time it was with the striking rail workers, which was obviously bad because the administration used the legislative power to stop them from striking, and then quietly made the railroad companies concede to their demands. Pete Buttigieg was mentioned by name once again on that deal as well. I still hate him. I still think he's a rat. But, you know, I'm gonna be honest. I'm not surprised by Pete Buttigieg being named here. However, having said that, I suspect that he's trying to beef up his bona fides for when he inevitably runs for president, to be like, see, I'm so pro-labor. I was mentioned in labor papers or whatever. Having said that, the one name that routinely was brought up was not Pete Buttigieg. Okay? The name that was routinely brought up was Julie Su on the NPR coverage. But more importantly than the NPR coverage, the person who worked behind the scenes that the ILA president himself directly fucking named on that Fox News, on that viral Fox News hit, was Julie Su. Okay? Acting Labor Secretary Julie Su. But remember, Biden did also, to give him to give him props, straight up fucking said, I don't believe in Taft-Hartley. There is such a thing as collective bargaining. He did say that. He's a genocidaire. He's a piece of shit. He's an old monstrous asshole who is basically fucking tanking the Democratic Party's chances of winning this election by being such a firm, committed ultra-Zionist. But on the issue of labor, he did fucking say that. That's just true. Make with that information what you will, but he did do that. Okay? He's our LBJ. Yeah, he is. He's our LBJ, baby. Anyway, about 12 hours after the strike began on Tuesday, Biden issued a statement urging the U.S. Maritime Alliance to present what he called a fair offer, citing the 800% growth in profits some ocean carriers saw in the pandemic. It's only fair that workers who put themselves at risk during the pandemic to keep ports open see a meaningful increase in their wages as well, he wrote. Biden's message to companies also tied hurricane relief efforts, noting that dock workers play an essential role in getting essential supplies to the communities affected by Hurricane Helene. He said now is not the time for ocean carriers to refuse to negotiate a fair wage. Do you understand how significant it is? Do you understand how significant it is that the sitting president is communicating the real villains of the story when mainstream media refuses to do so? He is directly addressing the companies. He's saying that the companies should do what is fair. This is very important, okay? This is utilizing the bully pulpit in a positive way for labor, okay? That's why I'm writing for. That's why I'm writing in Biden, okay? This is you want to ask me why I'm writing Joe Biden in? This is it. There you have it. If not for Israel, Biden has been the most progressive president of my lifetime. Yeah, it is kind of interesting to think about, like pre the month of October, because then he also did the immigration thing in October, like on October 4th or October 5th. He was like, I'm also gonna fucking kill migrants, Jack. Like if it wasn't for the month of October, like he doesn't go right wing on immigration and he doesn't fucking do the permanent genocide in Gaza, Jack. He is objectively the most progressive president in like the past 50, 60 fucking years, okay? Straight up, which is crazy to think. Dude, you're voting Clamato. It's a tomato clam drink. Nah, this is glaze. If he didn't do blank, what are you talking about? I'm just being fucking honest with you. Like, imagine a world where the month of October does not exist, okay? You're staring down the barrel of a guy who uniquely, as the president, stepped on a fucking picket line and also sided with the workers on a major fucking UAW contract renegotiation process. Okay? You are looking at a guy who geared the NLRB and the FTC to do whatever the fuck they want in terms of like going after trusts and doing trust busting on the FTC side, who is like going after abusers on the NLRB side, actively being pro-labor, openly communicating that he's being pro-labor. And on top of that, he pulled out of Afghanistan, okay? on the foreign policy front, on the NATO end, yes, there were, there are a lot of issues that leaves, he certainly could have been better in terms of like trying to get to a deal, trying to get to the table with a deal. But beyond that, and that's like obviously foreign policy. That's just uniparty regardless. But beyond that, he would have been fucking, he would have been hailed as like an incredibly progressive carcass. And then the month of October came around and he was like, I am the most right wing that the Democrats have been outwardly in the way that we're going to fucking kill migrants, Jack. Did Kamala say anything about the strike? Yes, she also repeated Biden, the same language that Biden repeated. At the NLRB, I was able to help get so many injunctions to get workers their jobs under Biden. How would you feel if you did half a genocide law? Wait, what do you mean? First of all, he didn't do half a genocide. He's doing a full-blown one, okay? Am I hallucinating Obama legalizing gay marriage? Okay, yes, that is very progressive. But we're talking about progressive in ways that are unique in terms of like economic policy, which has the capacity to reach out to the broadest subsects of American society. Also, it's not like Barack Obama was like, don't look at what Barack Obama and Joe Biden's statement on gay marriage was. Anyway, meanwhile, senior leaders in his administration, including National Economic Advisor Lael Brainerd, White House Chief of Staff Jeff Zients, and Acting Labor Secretary Julie Su, were holding a flurry of calls to the foreign shipping companies and with the union, according to a source familiar with the discussion who was not authorized to speak. After several days of pressure, the companies agreed to put a higher offer on the table. The union accepted that offer and also agreed to extend the contract so negotiations over all other issues could resume. On Thursday night, after the tentative deal was announced, Biden issued a statement thanking all the parties for acting patriotically to reopen the ports, and the economic disaster was averted. More than $2 billion worth of goods typically flow through these ports daily, from chemicals to clothing to bourbon to bananas. The affected ports from Boston to Houston normally handle more than half of all cargo containers coming into the U.S., about 1 million containers a month, as well as more than 300,000 containers heading out of the country, according to the freight tracking company Vizion. You know, how is Biden anything but a centrist, borderline conservative? If Joe Biden's considered progressive, we're fucked. I am rating Joe Biden's administration's policies on labor on a curve. Okay? That's just it. And the reality of the matter is, on that curve, American presidents have historically been openly and overtly anti-labor. Biden has done a bunch of shit that is openly and overtly pro-labor. So if you're comparing him to other American presidents and other American administrations, yes, his policies on labor are above and beyond, okay? It is an incredibly low bar to set, but it's still true. This isn't like me saying I'm in the tank for Joe Biden, even though I am riding with Joe Biden and I will be writing his name in the upcoming election. Anyway, here's Julie Su.
Back to the jobs report. 254,000 jobs were added in the month of September, much higher than expected. Lydia Hu is outside the Labor Department with Acting Labor Secretary Julie Su. All right, Lydia, it's all yours. Take it away.
Hi there, Ash. Thank you so much. We're so pleased to be joined by Acting Labor Secretary Julie Su to talk about this morning's surprising jobs report. 254,000 jobs added when 140,000 were expected. Unemployment ticking down 4.1% when 4.2 was what was expected. I'm sure that you will probably say this is a strong jobs report, but I do want to start with this because it seems like this is changing direction. We have had a series of job reports this year that have indicated a cooling labor market. So my question to you is today's report really an exception or an anomaly?
I mean, let's look at what the jobs report have told us really since the Biden-Harris administration began. We have had a record recovery, right? The numbers of jobs created, the record low levels of unemployment. This is not just like, 4.1% once. It has been the longest stretch of unemployment at or below 4%, near 4%, since, most of us were born. That's not.
Michael Moore warns Kamala Harris move to the center could cost her the election. Don't shun progressive base. Republicans against Trump say, no, dog, who are you? What do you mean Republicans against Trump? Like, who the fuck are you guys? This is what's so frustrating. It's like, dude, you're a newcomer, okay? How about you suck my dick? How about you fucking shut the fuck up and vote for Kamala Harris, okay? Like, that's what's really frustrating about this. It's like, No, those are the guys who need to shut the fuck up and hold their nose and vote for Kamala Harris, as Kamala Harris is supposed to, in a normal world, advocate for, progressive fucking policies. All right? If you absolutely despise Donald Trump, then yeah, go out and fucking vote for Kamala regardless. There are far greater numbers of progressives that are liably voting for the Democratic Party than there are these like fucking Republicans against Trump. I hate this shit. Some news in my look at Harris's GOP outreach. Our Revolution, founded by Bernie Sanders, polled progressive activists and found that 1 in 4 knew someone considering a third-party protest vote now. Kamala Harris chases the disaffected Republican vote. She is genuinely hemorrhaging the base of support. And then all these dumbasses are going to turn around and be like, well, what do you expect? Of course we're going to fucking listen to the Republicans that voted for us because you guys won't. It's like, dude, you're pushing these people away. They are responding to the things that you are communicating. What the fuck do you expect? Oh, not that it matters, because honestly, they don't give a shit. This is what happened in 2016. They didn't give a shit. They didn't learn the lessons. They don't care. I mean, look at this. Look. Kamala Harris, a radical liberal who would raise taxes, take guns away and health insurance, and explode the size of power of the federal government. She wants to recreate America in the image of what's happening in the streets of Portland and Seattle. We won't give her the chance. That's what Liz Cheney said in August 11, 2020. I quote retweeted it yesterday. I said, love that the Kamala campaign is doing an event with this person. Liberals love laughing at Trump when he brings up Tulsi Gabbard on stage like she's going to siphon votes from Dems, but then will declare this move by their own campaign as brilliant in the same breath. It's objectively stupid. It's stupid in the exact same fucking ways that the other move is stupid, right? Another thing I brought up in terms of about the Kamala Harris campaign with Liz Cheney was Kamala Harris is currently talking alongside Liz Cheney, celebrating Dick Cheney's endorsement instead of changing course on the objectively unpopular neocon policies of the current admin she's supposed to replace. Stopping Israel is not only the moral imperative, it is also popular. And yet, nobody cares. Everyone keeps pointing to like how low in the interests of the American voters Israel actually is. When that should be my argument. Yeah, it's low, which is why you can change trajectory without incurring any sort of penalties in an effort to legitimately bring new voters to your side in much larger numbers. Anyway, but nobody listens to me, okay? What do I fucking know? After all, I'm just some dumb fucking Twitch streamer. What do I know? What do I know?
Not an anomaly. And the fact that we continue to see robust job growth across multiple industries, not an anomaly. Now, the story of this economy was definitely not predicted, though, right? 4 years ago, let's just think about exactly where we were 4 years ago. In the last administration, it was September. Back to school meant back to Zoom. We're in the middle of a global pandemic, and there was no national strategy to get it under control. October, kids were being told trick-or-treat is being canceled. We're in a very different place now, not because of 1 month, but because of really strong economic policies that have powered a historic recovery.
Well, let's talk more about this data, because baked in here too, we are seeing some revisions. And what's different in this report is that we're seeing revisions to the upside from July, for example, excuse me, adding 55,000 jobs. That is a change from what we have seen over the past year. Coming into this report, we had actually seen revisions to the downside. The Labor Department reporting that they had over-reported job growth by 800,000. So I'm wondering, how can we even trust that this data is accurate when we are seeing wild gyrations in the revisions?
Well, I would dispute the characterization of wild gyrations. Again, month after month, there has been job growth, period, to the tune of some 16 million over the period of this administration. The last administration was one of only 2 to lose jobs from the time they came into the time they left. But let's talk about the revisions, because the reason why these numbers are considered the gold standard, the reason why they're relied on for everything from markets to economic policy, is because it really is the most robust collection of data about the state of the job market.
If that's so, then how can we see revisions 8,000 to the downside before, and now we see job revisions to the upside?
I'm glad you asked that, because revisions are a part of the process. We report the data as it comes in. The reason I can come out here every month and report them is that we give people a very narrow window to tell us what happened in the month. They have 13 days to report it. Some people don't make that deadline, right? I'm sure you as a student, I as a student, sometimes we miss deadlines. But once we report it, it gets integrated, for sure. But it gets integrated into the numbers. And so the revisions actually prove just how transparent and reliable they are, because we report the facts as we see them, and the facts are a very good story.
Let's drill down into some of those sectors, because you mentioned a few of them where you're seeing some job growth. But one area where we are not seeing job growth is manufacturing. And that is concerning. In this report, we saw 7,000 manufacturing jobs lost in the country. The expectation was 5,000. And that's continuing what is troubling to some, a trend of declining manufacturing jobs. According to our good colleague, Edward Lawrence, who usually has this post, the 3-month average now is roughly 9,300 jobs lost per month in manufacturing. So what is wrong with manufacturing in America?
Again, let's look at the overall picture. So manufacturing jobs have grown under this administration, also not by accident, right? Part of the Biden-Harris Investing in America agenda.
I think it's roughly 160,000 jobs that have been added under the administration for
Exactly.
manufacturing.
So added is the point, right? It is inaccurate to say that we haven't grown manufacturing, and we've grown it not by accident.
What's the trend now? Why are we seeing it seems like a change? Because for the month after month recently this year, we're seeing a downward decline in manufacturing jobs.
So the reality is, we are now opening up manufacturing facilities in parts of the country where they had been closed in the last administration. I visited them. Jobs where people had to leave their community, leave their families to go work somewhere else are now able to come home. You're right, though. We're not done. We've got more work to do on this.
It's weapons, isn't it? A big part. I mean, weapons are a big part of it for sure. That's why Zelensky was literally at the Scranton, Pennsylvania factoring facility. And dude, something that was genuinely scary for me, at least, that didn't get a lot of media reporting was talking about how America's endless support for continued wars. Okay, America's endless support for continued wars was actually, oh my God, I thought this was a joke. It's real. Kamala Harris will appear on Alex Cooper's Call Her Daddy podcast next week, one of the top podcasts for women in the U.S. The interview will be focused on reproductive rights. Oh my Lord. Okay, we'll move on from that story. I'll get back to what I was saying. One of the things that is truly scary about America's future is trying to sell the idea of a war economy to the Americans as a positive, because see, look, we're making artillery shells in domestic manufacturing. You see what I'm saying? If they start packaging a pro-war sentiment amongst the American working class, they try to actively say look, these wars are actually positive for us because you get good jobs. You get good paying jobs. That is a devastating prospect. We kind of do that already, but it's in a weird way. We don't we do that, but in a weird way, we don't openly say it. It's basically the difference between calling it the Department of Defense but then switching the narrative to directly saying, we are now going to have the most lethal military, right? The optics on that, when you start saying the quiet part out loud, that to me spells a change in attitude. When you're no longer trying to even hide the truth, that means that things are going to get worse. We must do all of our part and fight for freedom from the workers in Scranton who make Pennsylvania the arsenal of democracy to the brave Ukrainian soldiers protecting their country. We stand with Ukraine in their just defense of their homeland in the face of Russian aggression. My policy always is, it doesn't matter. Never sign artillery shells. Okay? I think it's a gross practice. Even if it's a just war, it's still a gross practice. I think it's disgusting to do. Okay. And in many cases, it's also not a just war regardless. Even if those artillery shells are always going to fucking hit always targets, it still doesn't change the reality that you are literally fucking signing a weapon of war. I think that you should always be anti-war across the board. Maybe I'm too much of a fucking pussy. I just think that the optics of this shit is awful. Straight up. Because you have no assurances that is not going to end up killing a child. Make it like a letter. The name written is who it gets delivered to. Yeah, you are ending a life. You are ending a life. No matter what. You are saying, I love ending life. I don't like it. I think it's nasty. Thought you weren't an optics, Andy? I mean, the only reason why I care about optics in a situation like this is to point out that These are the people who care about optics. So if they're dropping the optics side of the equation, that means they're gearing up for more and more right-wing sentiment. Do you understand? It's a terrifying prospect for the future of America, where we are going. That's what it feels like. When the optics guys, the liberals for the most part, are dropping the optics, they're basically saying this is the direction that we're moving towards. And I don't like that. I also think that the morality of it is a dog shit to sign an artillery shell in general. But it is what it is. So yeah, over the summer, a group of former Nikki Haley supporters who now back Kamala Harris told her presidential campaign how she could close the deal. Harris could emphasize ironclad support for Israel's security. She might commit to appointing at least one reasonable Republican to a higher level cabinet position. Why not talk about energy dominance after picking a moderate running mate? It's crazy because she did all of those things verbatim. Like, is the Nikki Haley voters for Kamala Harris the only people that she's listening to? This is crazy. The Haley voters working group didn't get everything on the list. Harris bypassed Governor Shapiro and Andy Beshear, picking the more progressive Tim Walz as her running mate. But this week, Harris campaigned alongside Liz Cheney and Walz, told a debate audience that she'd have an all-of-the-above energy policy and keep producing more natural gas and more oil. And the vice president said in her major interview in August that she'd include a Republican in her cabinet. Mission accomplished. They're moving towards the policies, towards policy the center of the country embraces, said Robert Schwartz, co-founder of Haley Voters for Harris, and now a senior advisor to the Haley Voters Working Group. There were some things on the list that they were going to do anyway, but it's been fun to see them moving in our direction. To the frustration of progressive Democrats, most of them biting their tongues until the election, the Harris-Walz campaign entered the election's final stretch with the party's most conservative messaging in years. Harris didn't just stand with Cheney. She called the former House GOP conference chair an extraordinary national leader, a true patriot. She didn't just recant her old pledge to ban fracking. She told Pennsylvania media that she cast the tie-breaking vote to open up more fracking leases, and she promised to maintain the most lethal fighting force in the world. The Trump campaign has labeled all of this a ruse, a San Francisco liberals' makeover, just in time for early voting. Trump campaign spokesman Stephen Chung derided Cheney this week as a stone-cold loser shilling for a weak and failed and dangerously liberal Harris. In swing states, the campaign and its allied PACs continue to pound Harris voters over progressive positions she took during the doomed 2020 presidential campaign, but abandoned in the White House. They are matched by paid Democratic messaging that has reintroduced Harris as a border state prosecutor who will deliver a middle-class tax cut, and by interviews and speeches where the Democrat ticket boasts that they own guns and in Harris's case won't hesitate to use them. We've moved right on every issue. It is insane. Like, when Joe Biden became the presidential candidate, I was shocked that the Democratic Party had once again moved towards such a conservative guy. Okay? What's even crazier now, however, is that Kamala Harris is up the ante in terms of her conservative messaging. It is crazy. The Democrats most frustrated by Harris's messaging are not threatening to bolt the party or abandon Trump. They do worry that other people might, and Harris is not doing everything she could to keep the working class voters who drifted right after 2016. Our Revolution, a progressive group founded by Bernie Sanders after his 2016 primary bid ended, polled 1,300 activists in swing states last month to gauge whether Harris had a problem. The result, first provided the Semaphore, was that 1 in 4 activists knew someone who was considering a third-party protest vote. The group would focus on contacting 1.2 million people who supported Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren in the primaries, hoping that Harris would make that job easier. You can't take progressives for granted, which I think the campaign is doing, said Our Revolution Executive Director Joseph Giver-Gezi. When I think about Wisconsin, I think about Foxconn and Trump's broken promise to bring it there. I think about Scott Walker starting a war on public sector unions. I don't think about campaigning with Liz Cheney in the birthplace of the Republican Party. Anti-war activists who have demanded Harris support an arms embargo in Israel have grown particularly frustrated. Last month, the uncommitted movement of anti-war Democratic delegates announced that it could not endorse Harris, and its members would make their own minds up after the Harris campaign refused to add a Palestinian-American speaker to a DNC lineup with numerous anti-Trump Republicans. I think that Harris is doing the right thing, drifting more right at the start of the election. The left voters are cemented. She needs to collect the center. Yeah, that's not true, but it doesn't matter because you're going to repeat that. Whether the Democrats win, you're going to repeat that. Whether the Democrats lose, you're going to repeat that. That's it. What is the center? What a lot of people fail to recognize in the dynamic American median voter's mind is that there are incredibly contradictory things that they believe. oftentimes things that are directly at odds with one another. What you are supposed to do as a good campaign is identify what some of these top issues are, top 5 issues are. It's not black and white. There's a gray area in between. Yes, dude, it is. But that doesn't benefit what you're saying, you know? That is the argument I'm making. It's not black and white. That is the reason why you have this insane thing where QAnon supporters will be like, I'm anti-big corporation, I'm anti-big pharma. And also, that's why I'm voting for the Republican Party to deregulate businesses. Okay? American voters are pretty fucking dumb. And what you fail to recognize is that the center is not directly in the center of all issues. The center doesn't mean, oh, I actually want, 30% less Holocaust on the migrant population. That, like, no one votes like that. Okay? There are a bunch of different things that they hear on their day-to-day, and they pick up on it, and they go, okay, well, this person actually represents this interest that I have, so I'm going to vote for them. That's how it works. A lot of people are stupid enough to think that, like, every American voter is literally making an accurate assessment and going, you know what? I'm glad that the Kamala Harris campaign is triangulating to the center on the issue of immigration. I really do think personally that, we should build concentration camps just 30% less. I don't want mass deportation. I want pretty high levels of deportation. No one thinks that way. The median voter or the average American ultimately thinks both at the same time that there should be mass deportations by 60%, but also that mass amnesty should be delivered to Americans that have been working on U.S. soil for years and years. I'm a centrist. I believe in policies the majority of America supports, like single payer, many more gun restrictions, a carbon tax on oil companies, high access to abortions, higher taxes on the rich, and so on. All majorities support all definitionally centrist positions. Exactly. That's what's funny about this process is that, like, Fango Lives is correct. Okay? Those are majoritarian positions. Okay? And yet none of these things are represented by the Democratic Party, and they're not represented by the Republican Party either. The Democratic Party is presenting a false narrative that there is a reasonable voter in the middle there that wants, like, the Republican Party's positions, but just, like, a little bit less than that. The base of the Democratic Party does not get super excited about Vice President Harris pursuing Dick Cheney harder than she's pursuing the voters for whom Gaza is the top policy issue, said Abbas Alawieh, a co-founder of the group, in the call about the decision. That is a flawed approach, given that the majority of voters in our country want to stop the unconstitutional flow of weapons to not just Benjamin Netanyahu, but to endless wars. Dick Cheney is the poster child for endless wars. Yeah. Hassan, I think you're missing a key component in this. Big donors. Corporations don't want Trump because of volatility, but they will not fund Kamala if she goes too far left. That is the real reason for the center-right position, in my opinion. Don't agree with all of that at all, though. Yes, you're absolutely right. No, that is the reason. Both parties care about their corporate benefactors more. Republicans get to hammer on the culture war narratives and the culture war issues that they can laser in on that don't disrupt the regular order of business in terms of their deregulatory agenda, in terms of their tax cut agenda, which benefits major corporations and the super wealthy, right? The Democrats, on the other hand, have to set up a counter against the Republicans. They have to turn around and act like they are actually against a lot of the things that the Republicans are openly for. This presents a problem for them, however, because they can't literally be like, no, we're the same as the Republicans, we're just gay. Okay? If they openly say that, then people are going to be like, all right, well, then I'm voting for the Republicans then. But that is precisely what's going on with the Democratic Party. The reason why the Democratic Party does that, however, is that they create a sense of stability that the Republican Party has lost in the eyes of the corporate benefactors, or at least some key sectors that care about that sort of thing. That's why, when it comes to oil and gas giants, they are deeply invested in the Republican Party. But some of these other industries are more invested in the Democratic Party. But ultimately, they all align when it comes to never increasing wages, never bettering the environment for labor and union participation. They're all on board regardless of whichever side they land on in terms of who they are voting for or who they're giving money to. Sorry. Jason Call, the campaign manager for Jill Stein's Green Party presidential bid, argued that the real Kamala Harris continues to reveal who she is. For Harris' campaign with Liz Cheney while trumpeting Dick Cheney's endorsement at every opportunity is a perfect illustration of how the parties of war and Wall Street are fundamentally converging and leaving the working people behind. The pro-Harris Republican rebuttal to this is simple. The left is making demands that could cost Harris. Moderate and conservative voters are just asking her to beat Trump. Endorsers like Cheney have even played up their differences. We have plenty of policy disagreements with Vice President Harris, she said in Wisconsin, to underscore that Trump is a unique national emergency that transcends debates over party platforms. Even on substantive issues where Harris has moved toward them, like energy, the shift had little to do with their influence and far more to do with things like surging energy prices after the Ukraine war and swing state job distribution. Former Illinois Rep. Joe Walsh, a Republican who's campaigned in swing state for Harris, said the voters he met were interested in defending democracy and didn't have many other litmus tests. Promising to be a conventional president who governs for everyone may be enough. Okay, if that's the case, well, she's definitely going to defend democracy. Now she can actually fucking advocate for more progressive policies then. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't seem like these guys only care about that, do they? Because if they only cared about that, then they wouldn't also say, if you don't fucking do all of this stuff, if you don't become the gay version of the Republican Party, we will literally not vote for you ever. Seems like they don't give a shit about the defending democracy angle all that much. It's about who you take for granted in terms of voters and who you don't, who you are willing to cast aside. Kamala Harris's campaign has actively made the choice to cast aside any kind of fucking progressive base of support. But it is unfair to simply call this the progressive base of support. And I don't like the framing on this article by friend of the show, Dave Weigel, for that reason. Because it's not just the progressive base of support that find these policies popular. Okay, that is precisely the reason why you see incredibly progressive ballot initiatives win by larger percentages than whoever the fucking state swings for in the general election always. Okay, that's it. People slap on the progressive sticker and say, oh, you just want a fucking pony. You want a unicorn. You want everything. Blah, 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 blah. We can never get this stuff. You're so stupid on issues that pertain to the real material problems that most Americans face. Okay? This is why I always go back to the one thing that Kamala Harris, either on accident or deliberately, landed on that was objectively considered radical by the media and yet was very popular. Price gouging. I am going to fight against corporate price gouging in the grocery sector. 83% popularity rating on that point, regardless of the litany of attacks launched against it. Why? Because Americans see the fucking prices of eggs and go, that's unacceptable, dog. That's it. The lesson you have to learn from that is that this is not about the progressive wing or the progressive base of the party. This is about the party being objectively popular across the board. That's it. She has made things easier. She's not a crazy lefty. She's been inclusive. Her convention speech was Reagan-esque in many ways, said Walsh. I'm Brian Kilme. David's view. The progressives who don't like the Harris campaign's approach disagree on what needs to change. Some believe that there are popular pro-labor Biden policies that Harris doesn't talk enough about, enabling Trump to rush in the gap with his promises. Trump and Vance repeatedly claimed that they, not Biden, put a cap on insulin prices for seniors, which is a bit of a tell here. That's right. That's a good one. Some are focused tightly on Arab American voters, warning that Biden and Harris are getting played by Benjamin Netanyahu, who wants Trump back in the White House and would benefit it if anti-war voters give up on the Democrats. I see two things happening here. One, the electorate has moved right on immigration and crime since 2016 when Hillary Clinton distanced herself from the Obama administration's deportation policies, and since 2020 when anger at Trump's family separation policies peaked. Democrats have taken their openings when Trump has been callous or dishonest about immigration. Walsh said in his debate with Vance that the GOP ticket exploited the city of Springfield, Ohio to dehumanize and villainize Haitians with temporary residency status. They did it once. That is like such a minor note. What they should have been fucking literally screaming from the rooftops every single damn day about how insane it is that Republicans are literally sending bomb threats to a Republican district in Springfield, Ohio, because Donald Trump and J.D. Vance lied about Haitians eating cats and dogs, an objectively racist depiction of documented migrants living on U.S. soil and participating in the American economy in meaningful ways. I am losing my fucking mind. That's not enough. They should have been saying it way more. Because if they were saying it way more, more people would write about it in the news. More people would read about it in the news. Commentators have the capacity to change people's opinions a little bit, especially if there is a shit ton, especially if there's a shit ton of media movement on this process. Republicans do a very good job with this. They laser in on a non-issue and turn it into a major issue all the fucking time, especially when it's electorally beneficial for them. Democrats never do this. Democrats literally sit around and wait for a fucking issue to drop on their laps, and even then they still flub it. But the broader context is Trump gaining with non-white voters as he promises mass deportation and Democrats having to concede ground in response. Part of that reason is because there is no counter narrative against the undocumented migrant problem. It is not a problem at all. As material conditions worsen, Americans become more reactionary. Okay? On the one hand, the Democratic Party is supposed to advocate to solve these material problems that the American working class is experiencing. And on the other hand, communicate that these people are not any different than you. But they're not doing that. And that's how we are going towards Nazi Germany. I don't know how people don't see this. You have to be fucking delusional not to recognize this, okay? Economic instability and economic volatility turns people into fucking angry demons. And if there's only one party that's saying, I see you, I know why you're mad, and I can tell you exactly what the reason is, it's the people that don't speak your language. They're scary. You're going to go, okay, well, I agree with you. Yeah, I am angry. You are recognizing that I'm angry. If the other party is saying, no, everything is fine, actually. Everything is fine. You just want a $50,000 tax credit for your fucking startup, for your startup podcast. We're going to do the opportunity economy. You're going to turn around and be like, fuck you. Fuck you. Suck my dick. No, I believe that other guy. That other guy at least recognizes that I'm mad. Yeah, he's right. I think it is the Haitian migrants, actually. That's how it works. That is precisely how this shit works. For years and years, I have talked about GOP, Texas GOP Latino outreach. For years, I have talked about this. Texas GOP Latino outreach is now national, okay? It is the Republican Party's national outreach. That's why you're seeing the Hispanic voting bloc swing towards the Republicans in very meaningful ways, okay? You have to understand something here. A lot of people just go, what the fuck? Why are these Latinos like voting for Donald Trump when he says like they're rapists and drug dealers? They don't see themselves as that. They see themselves as documented American citizens. They see themselves in a different capacity as the Hispanic population in the United States of America firmly gets billed under the white banner. And this is already happening in this country while the Democratic Party simultaneously does not address any of the material circumstances that Latino voters historically respond to in a positive manner in Texas, especially, okay? Especially young Latinos respond very positively to to fiscally progressive policies, okay? Not even just young Latino voters, actually. Old Latino voters also outcompete every other voting bloc, every other demographic in terms of their analysis on bigger government initiatives, which is the most reactionary fucking framing you can slap onto this. Like, they want social safety nets. If the Democratic Party does not do that and then does not present that to them, then they're not really presenting anything to them. And then the Republican Party can turn around and beef up the Catholicism angle. The Republican Party can turn around and say, guess what, dude? These guys don't want to do anything except for transing your youth, okay? They want to fucking make your children gay and transgender. They want to fucking do bottom surgery on your youth. And especially if you are a low information voter, especially if you fit the bill of an underserved community that historically does not have higher levels of educational attainment, you are more susceptible to that sort of misinformation. So obviously, that has been profoundly fucking successful in Texas, a state that is firmly Republican, that has a shit ton of Latino voters. The Republican Party saw that and they realized, like, oh, dude, this, like, all this anti-immigrant sentiment doesn't actually work against us, especially if we at least still identify some of the things that Latino voters care about. Okay, social conservatism. So then they use the social conservatism angle as a way to win over Latino voters. That's it. That's how it works. And I've been talking about this for fucking years, dude. I've been talking about this for years. More frequently than I talk about the top of the hour ad break, which comes at the top of the hour every hour. If you no longer want to see those ads, all you're going to need to do is subscribe, which you could do for $6 or for free with a Twitch Prime by connecting your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account, where you get 1 free Prime subscription a month. Use it on your favorite broadcaster. This is literally the way my parents think, lol. They're anti-immigrant immigrants. Very cool. Los Peoples, thank you for the 5 Get the Subs, allowing 5 people to no longer see the ads at the top of the hour. Here's a 3-minute ad break now. Democrats' advantage with Latino voters continue to shrink. Harris leads Trump nationally among Latinos 54% to 40%, but Democrats' edge is at its lowest level in the last 4 presidential cycles. What ends up happening is the Latino voters that are younger, that do care about immigration, that don't want the dehumanizing language, see it from the Democratic Party as well. They get frustrated. They're like, I don't want to fucking vote for this. And the other group of Latino voters that are maybe older, especially a little bit more socially conservative, look to the Republican Party and say, well, they're saving us. They're giving us the things that we want. The Democrats are not giving us anything. I don't care about the social progressive shit. I would still vote for the Democratic Party if the Democratic Party at least, like, you know, defended my material interests, but they're not doing that. So I'm just going to vote for the Republican Party. This is something that I always talk about. People vote for people that give them something, okay? The expectation that you're always going to be in a defensive posture when you're voting is only going to shrink your base of support year over year, and that's precisely what the Democrats rely on. It is a very stupid way to try and win elections. You cannot specifically use the duopoly to your benefit like this every election cycle and hope for the best possible results, unless you lose. And then people remember how fucking shitty it is when Republicans are in power, and then they fucking turn around and vote for you. And that's precisely what happened with Donald Trump in 2016. But people have a short memory. They have forgotten how shitty it was for the Republicans to be in charge. One major thing that the Democrats could have used in the Haitians are eating cats and dogs narrative that was going on is the arrogant and entitled way in which some of the dumbest, most racist fucking assholes in society were screaming from the fucking rooftops, despite the fact that they were wrong. That is a immediate reminder for everyone what it was like when Trump was president. Okay? That's it. You could just point to that. You could point to abortion. You could be like, look, remember, this is what happens when Republicans fucking win. Okay? They push these policies. Many people think, oh, I want these policies. You can use abortion as an argument for immigration, for being pro-immigration and being anti-Republican immigration strategy. You could be like, a lot of people think that they want this, but when it happens, they don't want it. They think it's brutal. They think it's barbaric. Okay? That's it. Because a lot of Americans are like, oh, mass deportation now. Mass deportation now. I love mass deportation. I think it's fine. What? I think it's fine if the U.S. is making their border policy more rigid. There's a serious underground economy trafficking migrants around the Americas to both the U.S. and other countries in Latin America. What? I think there's a real angle about illegal immigration that you missed. There's a real underground. The migrants aren't themselves the problem. The people who are moving them are. Yeah, dude, how do you fucking fix that? You fix that by fucking streamlining the process of migration, not by fucking making a rigid border. Literally think about this a little bit, okay? Greg Kazar talks about this so perfectly, okay? He's right. Hardline, rigid approach to fucking border policies benefits the cartel. If you want to stop the flow of human trafficking, you have to serialize and process migrants better. You have to fix the fucking migrant process. People that have no other options, that need to come into the United States of America, that are escaping violence, are going to take any measure they can. Prohibition of alcohol did not work. It was an unsuccessful policy. Demonstrably, it just creates a black market. If you want to eviscerate the black market, you have to make it safer and easier for people to fucking come into the United States of America. Oh, I'm from South America, dog. The migrants are the victims here. I don't give a fuck where you're from, dumbass. It doesn't matter. You're still stupid on this point, okay? It's so frustrating when people just do standpoint theory to me. Like, oh, dude, I'm sorry. You're from South America, so I guess I should just let you fucking make an idiotic proposition here. You're pointing to a real problem, a problem that I also understand exists. I'm telling you what the solution is, and you're like, nah, it's better if the Democrats actually go along with the Republican agenda that is born out of white supremacy, that dehumanizes you anyway. Like, what do you mean? I don't care about this shit. I've never cared about this. Just so you understand, this stuff doesn't work in this liberal community, okay? Maybe in other liberal communities, you can do standpoint theory. You could turn around and be like, listen, you don't understand. I'm Latino. I'm from South America. Okay. How dare you speak to me like this? This is not one of those communities. Plenty of people come in here and they're like, well, Hassan, I'm a black person and it's really inappropriate that you're telling me what it's like. I don't care. Anyway, I didn't say it's the only solution. No, you also said that you, one, assume that I'm missing an angle on immigration. Okay, an angle that I'm not missing on. You assumed that the Democratic Party's solution, which is white nativist, right-wing immigration bills that they're writing as alongside the Republican Party is the adequate solution to this problem. It's not. It's only going to worsen the problem. If that's not the solution that you think is the apt one, why are you defending it? The only thing Hasanabi doesn't suffer from is making generalizations from his own experiences. That's literally not what I said. I think it's fine that the U.S. is making their border policy more rigid. There's a serious underground economy trafficking migrants. The U.S. making their border policy more rigid unironically helps the fucking underground economy trafficking migrants. That is my point. And I don't think you're understanding that. Okay? This is the silliest way to backtrack on your point. I don't know why we're still debating this issue. We're going to move on for the sake of your own, so that I'm not defending it. I just said there's a reason to secure a border, not to make a concentration camp. We're done. That's fine. I'm not going to reiterate my argument over and over again. It seems like you are just refusing to hear. I think you just triggered a bunch of people when you said Republicans only appeal to Hispanics on the grounds of social conservatism. Every conservative Latino just got activated. Yeah. I already ran the 3-minute ad break at the top of the hour. Anyway, 2, Democrats are reaching out to the voters who make the fewest demands. That doesn't mean they're ignoring their traditional base, but it does explain why they feel safe relying on them alone. Bailing out the Teamsters' pensions didn't help them secure the union's endorsement. It's at best an open question whether Biden marching in a picket line with UAW and Harris backing striking longshoremen will help them with rank-and-file members. Democrats can mitigate their decline with union voters on economic issues, but they can't in a few weeks abandon the environmentalism or cultural liberalism that has moved many of them towards Trump. I don't think it's the environmentalism that moves many towards Trump. I just don't. Okay, cultural liberalism, certainly. That definitely is the thing. Because by and large, I think the median American voter, if we're being fucking super serious and super honest about this, by and large, I think the median American voter is a fucking Nazi. Okay, what do I mean by this? I mean, I'm exaggerating, right? They have nationalistic sentiments. They are socially not very progressive, okay? But fiscally, they are. Like, that literally is the case. So if you want to defend marginalized communities, okay, you have to package it with popular, progressive economic policy, okay? That's it. Most Americans either don't give a shit about the gay stuff or they just kind of hate it. Okay, but you know what they do like? Money in their pockets. So if you don't do that, because that is the way to defend marginalized communities as well. You're like, yep, we're going to give everybody health care. And you're going to shut the fuck up if trans people get health care. What the fuck's wrong with you? Who cares? That's the way to do it. Tim Walz actually communicates this stuff pretty well, right? Like he or at least he used to. How can you say that the median voter is socially conservative when LGBTQ rights have expanded and the backlash to Roe has been so strong in recent years? Like, socially conservative in the sense that if you make that your major point, if you make that your agenda, most people are going to be like, oh, I don't really care. How does this help me? They're selfish. It comes from a place of selfishness. In what conceivable way have LGBTQ rights have been expanded? I'd like to know this. I think people just talk about like gay rights, gay marriage. That's pretty much what they're talking about. That's more so an argument for when systems that are beyond your control actually fucking move in a more progressive direction. A lot of people don't really care. Okay. A lot of people just go, okay, this is the new norm. Who cares? And they move on. The Republicans have to desperately fight back against that. The problem, on the other hand, is that a lot of people just broadly fucking gesture towards like this is the argument I make for trans rights all the time, okay? The argument I make for trans rights all the time is that most people just by and large don't care, okay? Republicans do a very good job of making you care in a negative way. But that oftentimes also causes a lot of people to go, ugh, you're kind of gross. Why do you care about this so much? You seem a little crazy. All right? That's basically what happened in the 2022 midterm elections. The trans panic stuff came across as weird to the, average voter, to the normal voters. Okay? But that does not mean that, like, if the Democratic Party was like exclusively running on like defending trans rights or whatever, that most Americans would be like, this is great. Because by the numbers, there aren't that many trans people. People don't have access to trans people. People don't see the humanity in trans people. Every trans person understands this, right? So the way to convincingly defend trans rights is to say, we have a broad agenda that is human focused. We do not want you to hate your neighbors, okay? Doesn't matter what their background is. It is unacceptable to do so. And we're going to give everybody health care. And everybody includes trans people as well. Okay? That's it. That's the way to do it, with fiscally progressive economic policies that you tack on social liberalism into, not the other way around. I've learned that people will forget what you've said. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. Anyway. Also, that manufactured interest in social issues they don't care about is only possible when no left-wing economic policy is even proposed. Yes, it has no traction when universalist safety nets policies are actually the other side of the conversation. Thank you. That's the other side of the equation that we often forget. You are absolutely correct. What do I always say? Another thing that I repeat myself over and over again when the election cycle happens is that if Democrats gave Republicans something to fight against, like universal and otherwise progressive, but like universal social safety nets, okay, beefing up our social safety nets, then the Republicans would have to present themselves in the least popular ways possible by actively fighting against social safety nets like Social Security and shit. That's objectively unpopular. But the Democrats don't even fucking do that. Similarly, anti-war organizers insist that Harris could shift votes if she broke with Biden administration support for Israeli war funding, and polling shows that it could be popular even as it would set off an explosive political fight. But soft Republican voters and their advocates are asking for no change at all. What's the harm in thanking them for their freely offered support and seeing how deep that sentiment runs? I just don't think that it is a successful strategy, especially if it comes with the purging of like normal Americans, not just progressives, not card-carrying activists, okay? I'm talking about like regular-ass Americans who are just like, yeah, I don't really feel like the Democrats have my interest in their minds. A lot of Americans feel left behind, okay? They feel forgotten. They feel like the Democratic Party does not have their best interest in mind. And the Democratic Party doesn't do enough to actively communicate against that. As a matter of fact, in many instances, the way they communicate to the broader majority is that they don't actually care about your material interests. That's the problem. Anyway, my dad is a Jew. I have family in Israel, and even he would support Kamala if she secured a ceasefire through an arms embargo. Yeah, I mean, that's... I don't know. I don't even know if your dad is a single issue Israel voter, but there are single issue Israel voters who also want this. I mean, the fucking hostage families, for example. In the New Yorker, A.L. Press asked where Harris has avoided the mistakes of Hillary Clinton, which reached out to Republicans but took union laborers for granted. Certainly improved on the optics. Clinton didn't visit a single union hall in Michigan or Wisconsin after she became the nominee. In the Washington Post, Liz Goodwin and Jacqueline Alamany look at why the vast majority of progressives are grinning and bearing it. On immigration and the war in Gaza in particular, members of the left of Harris's stances are avoiding harsh critiques as she faces Trump, hoping to hash out their differences after the election. That's fucking bullshit. Are you auto-Jew if your dad is Jew, or is that the mother? No, Judaism is matrilineal. What the fuck is an auto-Jew, man? Like a Jewish person that is really interested in automobiles? Is that what you're saying? Auto-Jew. Anyway, let's get back to the jobs. We talked about the jobs report pretty aggressively at this point. Let's hear what the Biden surprise appearance at the White House press briefing was.
Hey, folks. My name's Joe Biden.
Welcome, Mr. President.
We've been waiting for you.
Welcome to the swimming pool. Hey, look, folks, good afternoon. The past 2 days we've gotten some very good news about the American economy. Just yesterday, shipping carriers, after some discussion, and the International Longshoremen Union came to an agreement to keep the ports in the East Coast and the Gulf ports open. We averted what could have become a major crisis for the country. and a tentative agreement which includes record wage increases for dock workers and shows the importance of collective bargaining and represents, I think, critical progress toward a strong contract. I especially want to thank the carriers, the port operators, and the Longshoremen's Union for reaching this agreement at a time when the nation has experienced such terrible...
Who do you think exists less, single issue pro-Israel Democrats or single issue pro-Dick Cheney Democrats? Single issue pro-Dick Cheney Democrats, for sure. Because there's like 3 total pro-Dick Cheney Democrats out there. Not even. It's just Liz Cheney and Dick Cheney, so 2. The number is, the actual number I can give you confidently is 2. There are 2 pro-Dick Cheney Democrats out there. Liz Cheney and Dick Cheney. That's it.
Devastation from Hurricane Helene. It was truly a service to the American people for all these parties to come together to respond to our request to keep the ports open. I was determined to avert a crisis at this moment because it's a critical moment. If we didn't do this now, we'd have a real problem. I also want to thank my White House team for the work. They worked around the clock to bring the parties together. But today, we got more incredible news. Although the strength of the American economy it's about the strength of the American economy. New jobs report, as you all know, you've been reporting, created 250,000 jobs in September. The expectation was for 150,000 jobs in September, which has far exceeded that number. Not only the previous 2 months the previous 2 months was revised up 75,000 jobs. And from the very beginning, we were told time and again that the policies we were pursuing, we'd put forward weren't going to work, make things worse, including some of the other team are still saying they're going to make things worse. But we've proven them wrong. You know, we've told our we were told our American rescue plan was too big and it would crowd out private investment. We proved them wrong. We vaccinated a nation and got immediate economic relief to people in need. When I came to office determined to end trickle-down economics and grow the economy from the middle out and the bottom up, I know you're tired of hearing me say that over and over again, but that was the policy, that it remains the policy. Because when you do that, everyone does well. When the middle class grows, the nation's stronger. And the nation's stronger when there's a strong union movement as well. We were told it wouldn't work, but I was also determined to do what was ignored for much too long. Presidents have been authorized since the 30s to be able to spend the money given by Congress to spend the money on hiring American workers and using American product where they were available. And that's what we did. We were told that was going to be a big problem. But all the money I was authorized to spend by the Congress has gone to hiring American workers and using American products. We were told it wasn't going to be. We were told that was going to be a big problem, but it's working. We're also told that our historic laws to invest in America and all Americans would crowd out private sector investment. Well, that was proven wrong too. We've attracted nearly $1 trillion since we've come to office.
By the way, my comment was in response to the standpoint theory argument. That's probably why you're the best commentator on the platform, because you use facts and data to inform your opinions rather than generalize off your experiences, which is what grifters excel at.
Private sector investment.
Dude, can I imagine what it would be like if he stayed in the Rays, Lamau? Yes, a beautiful prospect for an American future. Okay, excuse me. In my mind, he's still in the Rays. That's why I'm writing him in.
From domestic and foreign companies investing in America. In America. Not this stuff of shipping jobs overseas for cheaper labor and bringing back a product to America. We're building it here and sending it overseas. And look at the results. Across the board, unemployment is down to 4.1%. And every month, in fact, that Vice President Harris and I have been in office, we've created jobs every single month. The nation has now created 16 million jobs since I've come to office, more jobs created in a single presidential term than any time in American history. Our GDP shows our economy grew at 10% under my administration. Unemployment reached the lowest level in 50 years. We're also told inflation couldn't come down without massive job losses or sending the economy into economic recession. Once again, outside experts were wrong. Inflation has come down. Wages have gone up faster than prices. Interest rates are down. Record 19 million new business applications have been filed for. The stock market continues to reach new heights. We've got more work to do, though. Keep
Can
getting.
I write you in? Yeah, if you want.
Keep getting prices down.
I got the same level of chances as the Green Party, so.
Like more affordable housing, extending what I've done for seniors and lowering prescription drug costs by letting Medicare negotiate the prices, make sure that's available to everyone. And by the way, what we've done so far, just when we brought down the prices for seniors under Medicare, it's saved the taxpayers billions of dollars. Billions of dollars. Saved the taxpayers billions of dollars. That's important to note, because they don't have to pay the exorbitant and irrational prices that these companies are charging. The simple fact is we've gone from economy in crisis to literally having the strongest economy in the world. And but we've got more work to do. We've got more work to do to deal with things I've just mentioned, and we're going to have to deal with unforeseen cost of what this hurricane is going to cost. It's going to cost a lot of money. And I'm going to probably have to ask the Congress before we leave for more money to deal with some of those problems. But that remains to be seen. I'll take a few questions before I turn it over to you. Pick out people.
Okay. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Go ahead, Josh.
Thanks again for doing this, Mr. President. 2 questions. The first, Florida Senator Marco Rubio described today's jobs report as having fake numbers. What do you make of that, and how worried are you that many Americans are hearing that the jobs numbers aren't real?
Well, look, I'm going to be very careful here. If you notice, anything the MAGA Republicans don't like, they call fake. Anything.
Look.
The job numbers are what the job numbers are. They're real, sincere, what we are. And by the way, just look at how the EU talks about us, how they like to have an economy like ours. Just talk about the rest of the world looks at us and what we're doing. So I don't want to get going.
And then secondly, could you clarify some of your comments yesterday with regard to strikes on Iranian oil facilities? What did you mean by them, given some of the reactions we're seeing in the market?
Well, look, the Israelis have not concluded what they're going to do in terms of a strike. That's under discussion. I think there are, if I were in their shoes, I'd be thinking about other alternatives than striking oil fields.
Thank you, Kareem. Thank you so much, Mr. President, for being here. This week, Senator Chris Murphy said it's certainly a possibility that the Israeli government is not going to sign any diplomatic agreement prior to the election, which is what you have been calling for so long, potentially to try to influence the result. Do you agree?
This is the big one, dude. This answer is phenomenal. And I'm going to give you the Republican version of this as well after.
Do you have any worries that Netanyahu may be trying to influence the election and that's why he has not agreed to a diplomatic solution?
Guys, I'm shocked. I'm shocked. Really? No way. You think Benjamin Netanyahu is trying to influence the outcome of this election? That he's in the tank for Donald Trump? How could you make such a wild assertion? After all, Benjamin Netanyahu has, openly recognized that Donald Trump is the most popular politician in Israel, more popular than Joe Biden, and also more popular than Benjamin Netanyahu and any other Israeli politician. Donald Trump has done more for Israel than anyone else, really. And also, beyond that, Benjamin Netanyahu went to his house to kiss the ring. Wow. How anti-Semitic of this reporter to be asking these sorts of questions to Joseph Robinette Brandon. I cannot seem to place my finger on this. I can't understand how we would arrive at this conclusion that I have been screaming from the fucking rooftops for months at this point. You mean to tell me that Benjamin Netanyahu has routinely fucking shit on Biden for the past 12 months, as Biden has kept saying over and over again that he's just going full tilt, permanent genocide mode, no matter what? It's just weird. How else could we deal with this? How else could we possibly deal with this sovereign nation, our attack dog in the region, that is objectively out of control? Ow. Shocked.
No administration has helped Israel more than I have. None. None.
You're a fucking idiot, dude. You old, monstrous corpse. You fucking dingus. You dumb fuck. No administration has helped Israel more than I have. It's a fucking foreign country, you jackass. You're the goddamn American president. Have some fucking respect and decency for the office. These are things that I don't even give a fuck about myself, but you should.
None. And I think Bibi should remember that. And whether he's trying to influence the election or not, I don't know, but I'm not counting on that.
You've said many times recently that you want to speak to him, that you plan
No,
to.
I didn't say plan to. I didn't say want to.
You don't want to?
No, I didn't say that. You're making it sound like I'm seeking and then I'm assuming when they make the assessment how they're going to.
This is good. This line of questioning is good. Maybe it'll piss him off to fucking actually, because he's such a personally malicious and vindictive asshole that if they keep hammering on the point that Benjamin Netanyahu is making you look like a fucking clown ass, maybe then he'll change trajectory instead of crying about it behind closed doors and then giving unlimited weapons and trillions of dollars to Israel. Another $50 billion to Israel meme remains to be true. Potentially, maybe that's the angle here. I don't know. Just keep being like, hey, Biden. Another thing I've also mentioned, by the way, was that like Benjamin Netanyahu is going to ruin his legacy over and over again. Maybe they should communicate that to Biden directly if they have opportunity to meet with him. Hey, Biden, you love your legacy. You care about it, right? You want to be known as like the great elder statesman that saved this country from Donald Trump and then was a transitional candidate that allowed for a new American future. Benjamin Netanyahu is going to tank that for you single-handedly if you keep giving unlimited weapons to him to engage in a genocide. Everyone's going to remember you as a genocidal monster who got also made a fool. Donald Trump, at the very least, is like, no, I love the permanent genocide that Israel is doing. That presents at least like some, that at least to the dumbest Americans makes it seem like Donald Trump is the strong man in this relationship and not Benjamin Netanyahu, who routinely has made you look like a fucking asshole.
Respond. We will then have a discussion.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President, for being here. What are you advising the Israelis to do in terms of their retaliation to Iran? And at this point, you still haven't spoken to Netanyahu. Is it fair to say that you have little personal influence over what he decides to do?
No. Look, our team.
So this is great. This is great because like then he has to admit like, no, all the genocidal stuff that he's doing, I'm on board with, which he is, by the way. Just make no mistake. He is not some fucking random dickhead. Okay. He is actually personally invested in the permanent genocide. Okay. He is, which is why he's letting Benjamin Netanyahu do it. Just so you guys understand. He is, however, seemingly doing it in the most like squishy liberal way possible, where they have to like maintain the veneer of rule-based international order. Here, let me explain this to you. For example, makes you really admire all the falsified evidence, expert testimonials that the State Department produces to try and pretend this is all above board, right? The Leahy Law is great because it proudly and smugly declares the U.S. cannot arm human rights abuses and then has a carve-out that's like, unless the State Department says nah, a true microcosm of the liberal rule-based order, okay? You know a law is a real law when a handful of obscure members of Congress constantly have to try and pass subsequent laws to enforce the original law, a real thing that guides U.S. foreign policy. This person replies to Adam Johnson, says, makes you really admire all the falsified evidence that and expert testimonials that the State Department produces. This is a statement about the rule-based international order and the veneer that like the American government, the song and dance that the American government plays to make it seem like we have some rules. Okay? Words cannot begin to describe how important it is to commit to the bit, how central the liberal rules-based order bit is to the United States bureaucratic NGO DOD soft power ecosystem of frustrated humanitarians. It can never die, no matter the evidence to the contrary. It is too big to fail. Once the bit shatters, you have a few million people who wake up and realize they're little more than 2-bit PR instruments, native informant recruiters, and selectively enforcing lawfare dweebs. It will never go away, regardless of how many war crimes the U.S. arms and funds in 4K. Do you understand? That's why I always have like, that is also why I always have like a little bit of frustration when I talk about NGOs. They might be right on the issue of Israel, but they are still playing that role of like, well, the American government, like, you know, it's more than just like an outsourced State Department vehicle. Like, I promise, like these are, and there are genuinely really good people that work at these institutions that do want to fucking help people, and they do marginally move the needle in the right direction. But ultimately, the U.S., the vestiges of American empire are going to behave in the ways that churn out the most bloodshed, and therefore the best possible outcomes for the imperial core. Okay. All you're doing at that point is basically operating like a PR guy, you know? You're basically laundering America's reputation by saying, but look, we got these people. These are the people that are doing the right things. They're even saying it. That's why it falls on deaf ears. They play the exact same role that the United Nations plays, right? They play the exact same role that the UN plays. The UN is like, well, we got rules. Why are we not applying them? And then when you do try to apply those rules, America's like, fuck off, suck my dick. Those rules were not an application in Iraq nor Afghanistan. And those rules are not an application for Israel as well. Israel is an extension of America. That's it. They are there so that the educated liberal thinkers look to those institutions and go, well, you know, some reasonable people are out there. Some reasonable people are just like demanding that people listen to reason, right? Like, well, I guess maybe this is above board. I don't know. America would never do this if it wasn't above board. There's a bunch of people. There's a bunch of people that do actually feel this way. The New York Times readers, for example. Okay? The problem is Israel is so glaringly, obviously in violation of human rights that most people are losing faith in these institutions, even the educated liberals. The older educated liberals are not, because they're firmly committed to the bit. They believe America is, at the end of the day, the best possible version of global dominance you can get. The alternative is far scarier. You got China. Who knows what those guys might do? They're scary. They look different. They sound different. I don't really know their culture. I don't understand it. The alternative is Russia, the USSR, socialism. The alternative is Islamic fundamentalism. I don't want that. I'm scared of that. That's usually the way that people go about it, where they're like, yeah, American empire, they sometimes do evil things, but ultimately it's far better than the alternative, right? It's far better than this spooky alternative. That's the way that a lot of people look at this. That's the way that a lot of people look at this situation, you know, not really recognizing that like America has beefed up the Islamist fundamentalism in an effort to fight against the USSR back in the day, for example. Anyway, But having said that, it is pretty funny that like they still try to make these like specific lawfare carve-outs in the own song and dance that they're playing at a time when most people are no longer believing the song and dance. Do you see what I'm saying? Young Americans have checked out, okay? An entire generation of Americans is lost in terms of like believing mainstream media. They are completely checked out because they don't even have access to it for the most part. But beyond that, they're checked out in like believing the credibility of these institutions because they didn't do a good enough job of maintaining this song and dance. How the fuck do you bring these people back? How do you bring them back? They made the mistake of running the same exact propaganda that they've run for years and years when there was no alternative to that propaganda, when you had no way of seeing what Palestinians were saying on the ground, the victims of this genocide were saying on the ground. Now with social media, you directly have access to a person who's getting fucking bombed every goddamn week. And you're like, oh my God, this is unimaginable. This is death and devastation. This is death, destruction, and devastation of the highest order. How could we ever fucking let this happen? When that exists, quite difficult for CNN to keep having Jonathan Concuncrius, Frankenstein's monster's ugly ass fucking big old head, come in and contextualize why these Palestinian children had to be killed because they're fucking Nazi children or whatever the fuck they're saying. That's it. Doesn't work. And they haven't been able to pick up the pace on a full-throated propaganda machine that churns out these sorts of like biased results. They haven't been able to socially condition people into believing that like Israel is the defender of the Western world. It's the first shield against the Western world. There are, of course, some online that, you know, frequent Reddit or some of these other places that already have like existing underlying Islamophobic attitudes, and Israel can capture them. But ultimately, it's a failed endeavor because people can still see the harm that they are causing.
Damn, this guy's good.